Good evening, everyone. It's dark, but it's times. Tonight we're going to play the second book from the Freeway Warrior series by Joe Dever. And let's start by the story so far. You are Carl Phoenix, a survivor, born in California on Thanksgiving Day in the year 2000. In 2012, whilst on winter vacation at your Uncle Jonas and Aunt Betty Ann ranch in Texas, you were invited to visit a shale oil mine near Austin, the first of its kind in Texas. As chief of construction, your uncle was proud to take you on a guided tour of the whole underground complex, which for security reasons was totally self-supporting. It was during this tour on 3rd January 2012 that the unthinkable happened. You remember how the ground shattered when the shock waves from the first distant explosions reached the mine. Immediately you assume it was the start of an earthquake, which you had experienced many times at home in California. However, as the levels nearest the surface began to collapse and the central elevator shaft filled with rubble, you realized the awful truth: the Holocaust. At first there was no way of telling the extent of the surface devastation. Below ground, the safety generators had switched into operation automatically when the main power supply failed. Alright, so you remember how the ground shattered when the shock waves from the first distant explosions reached the mine. Immediately, you assume it was the start of an earthquake, which you had experienced many times at home in California. However, as the levels nearest the surface began to collapse, and the central elevator shaft filled with rubble, you realized the awful truth: the Holocaust. At first, there was no way of telling the extent of the surface devastation. Below ground, the safety generators had switched into operation automatically when the main power supply failed, and the tremors had faded quickly, which encouraged your aunt and uncle to believe that the damage above was superficial. Uncle Jonas was confident that the military will mount a rescue operation, and that you will be brought out within a few days, a week at the most. Aunt Betty Ann, too, was optimistic. After all, there were emergency supplies, enough to feed 200 men for a whole month. Little did she know that the three of you will end up consuming all those supplies, or that the mine will become your home, your shelter, and your prison for the next 8 years of your life. It was early September in the year 2019 when eventually you broke through to the surface. When first you set eyes on the landscape surrounding the mine, it was like looking at the surface of another planet. Few structures had survived the blizzards and intense cold that had swept around the world in the years following the day, and now, after the dust had settled and the sun had returned, the once fertile plains of Austin resembled little more than a desert of parched and broken rock, littered with the artifacts of an absent civilization. During the first few days, when you set out to explore this wilderness, it was easy to believe that you were the only survivors. But on the morning of the 5th day, Uncle Jonas made chance radio contact with a family called Ewell, who were living near the ruins of McKinney, 30 miles north of Dallas. They told him that they had been in touch with a handful of other groups who had managed somehow to survive the Holocaust. Most were isolated and unable to move due to lack of fuel, food, or water. They had urged those who could travel to join them in McKinney to start a new community there, and some people were already on their way. When your uncle and aunt accepted their invitation, the Ewells were enthusiastic, but they also warned you to be wary. Not everyone who had survived wanted to establish a new community. The ruins of some large Texan cities, such as Dallas and Fort Worth, were controlled by gangs of criminals who fought with each other and terrorized anyone seeking to re-establish law and order. They urged you to avoid these gangs at all costs. It took more than a week to discover a vehicle that could transport you to McKinney. It was an old-school bus, one that had been parked in an underground lot and had survived the years of sub-zero blizzards. With fuel and spares salvaged from the mine, you managed to coax it back to life and then set off on your journey north. When you arrived at the town, it was easy to find where the Ewells lived. Their ranch was the only place that was still standing. It looked more like an old frontier post than a ranch, with its fortified perimeter wall, lookout post, and stake-filled moat. However, after being ambushed and shot at by the city gangs of Fort Worth during the final stages of your journey, you fully appreciated the need for these defenses. Pop Ewell, the 70-year-old grandfather of the Ewell family, was the leader of the small colony of survivors, and it was he who had urged Uncle Jonas to join them when they had first made radio contact. The colony numbered less than a dozen at the time of your arrival, yet as the airwaves became clearer and new contacts were made, soon this number had more than doubled to 25. It was decided that a name was needed to identify the settlement. The name Dallas Colony 1 was adopted, known as DC-1 for short. From that day on, everyone worked hard to make DC-1 a secure haven for those seeking refuge from the hostile wastelands and marauding city gangs. Cotter Jacks was one such refugee before the day he had been chief mechanic at the International Grand Prix circuit near Lake Dallas, and his incredible skill, wit, and knowledge of engines was soon to prove invaluable to the colony. He taught you how to drive, and from a pile of old wrecks that you helped him salvage from the circuit, he built you a powerful customized car. You used it to patrol the highways north of the city, keeping a lookout for gangs of city punks who frequently mounted raids to steal or destroy DC-1's supplies. Cotter also taught you to shoot. It was your natural prowess with a gun, and your skill behind the wheel that was to earn you the begrudging respect of your enemies, who took to calling you the Freeway Warrior. 6 months after you arrived at DC-1, the colony was faced with a major crisis. A heat wave was causing a drought that threatened to destroy the food supply. Crops were failing, and the colony's artesian well, its only source of uncontaminated water, was beginning to dry up. The drought was also provoking more attacks from the city punks, who were desperate for food and water. Their common need had united them, and now they posed a very real threat to the security of DC-1. It was the last day of May 2020, when Pop Ewell made radio contact with another colony who were based in the city of Big Spring, 300 miles west of McKinney. Their situation was completely the reverse of DC-1's. They had food and water in plentiful supply, but they were desperately short of fuel. They told of their contact with survivors in Tucson, Arizona, who were also without fuel. The Tucson colony reported that the territories west of the mountains of the Sierra Nevada had been spared the worst effects of the radioactive blizzards that had devastated the rest of the country, and miraculously much of Southern California was still widely populated. In fact, it had survived the last 8 years virtually intact. When you heard the news, you could hardly believe your ears. Perhaps your family was still alive. After all that had happened, there was now a real hope that one day you might be reunited with them. A meeting was held to decide how best to deal with the crisis facing DC-1. Everyone agreed that to stay at McKinney will lead eventually to death, either slowly from starvation or suddenly at the hands of the murderous city gangs. The only choice open to DC-1 was to try to reach California. Only there lay real hope for the future of the colony. The decision was relayed to the survivors at Big Spring, and a deal was struck to rendezvous with them as soon as possible. DC-1 will refuel them in exchange for food and water, and together they will join up with the Tucson colony for the final stage of the journey to California. Careful preparations were made for the long trek, and 3 vehicles were chosen to make up the convoy: the school bus, your customized roadster, and a gasoline tanker laden with 5,000 gallons of petroleum, siphoned from the underground storage tanks at the Ewell Ranch. Supplies of food and water were adequate, but the colony lacked sufficient firearms and ammunition with which to defend itself. So on the day before the convoy was due to leave, one of the colonists was sent north to search the town of Sherman for weapons. He radioed back to say that he had found a cache of hunting rifles and ammunition, but that his truck had broken down and he was stranded in the town. He had also found a survivor, a beautiful teenage girl, and he requested that you be sent to Sherman to pick them up. As soon as you arrived, you were ambushed by the scouts of a brutal gang of bikers known as the Detroit Lions, and in the ensuing gun battle, you killed Stinger, the scouts' leader. Later, you learned that the girl, Kate Norton, was the sole survivor of a Kansas City colony, which had been attacked and wiped out by the Detroit Lions. The Lions' leader, who calls himself Mad Dog Michigan, had taken a liking to her and spared her life. Mad Dog had once been a high-ranking Havoc agent. He had escaped from Pontiac Deep Pen near Detroit, and he and his gang, most of whom were also Havoc escapees, were aiding for the Fort Hood Military Reserve near Killeen, Texas, the largest armory in the whole of the United States. There he hoped to find enough weapons to equip the other Havoc clans, who were now in control of cities all along the eastern seaboard. Kate had managed to steal a motorcycle and escape from their camp, but Mad Dog had been determined to get her back. He sent his brother, Stinger, and a handful of his best scouts to track her down. He had finally caught up with her at Sherman. When Mad Dog learned that you killed his brother, he vowed to get even with you at any price. He abandoned his plans to loot Fort Hood and embark instead on a relentless pursuit of your colony as it crossed the sun-scorched wastelands of central Texas. The journey to Big Spring was fraught with great danger. Yet, in spite of the many perils you faced, or perhaps because of them, you felt yourself falling in love with Kate, and you sensed that she, too, was becoming increasingly fond of you. Sadly, the convoy was only a few miles from Big Spring when disaster struck. The land surrounding the settlement was controlled by a gang of bikers, a renegade clan called the Mavericks, who had been the bane of the Big Spring colony for many months. As the convoy drew nearer to its destination, the Mavericks launched an attack, and in the running battle that ensued, they captured and abducted Kate. The convoy entered the fortified gates of Big Spring, rapturous welcome from the colonists of that settlement. But for you, the mood of celebration was soured by the vivid memory of Kate's abduction. You vowed to rescue her, and from that moment on, every waking minute of every day at Big Spring was spent thinking about little else. By chance, it transpired that the leader of the Mavericks, a blonde-haired murderer called Amex Gold, was a former Havoc agent who had served under Mad Dog Michigan before the day. He offered to join forces with the Lions, and as a token of his loyalty to his former commander, he returned Kate to him. Together, the Lions and the Mavericks launched a hasty attack on Big Spring. However, although they outnumbered the colony by more than 3-1, they were unable to breach the settlement's fortified perimeter wall, and were repelled with heavy losses. On the day after the attack, Bob Ewell discovered the radio frequency that the clansmen were using, and was able to eavesdrop on their communications. He learned that Mad Dog had ordered another Havoc clan, based in New Orleans, to come and reinforce his command. They were expected to arrive within the week. He also overheard Mad Dog arrange a meeting with Mekong Mike, the leader of the Angelinos, a gang that controlled the city of San Angelo. He wanted him as an ally and was prepared to offer guns and ammunition in return for his help in destroying the Big Spring colony. 2 days later, Mad Dog Michigan set off for San Angelo at the head of a motorcycle pack 200 riders strong. Those few clansmen who remained with Amex Gold tried myriad tricks to convince the colony that the Mavericks and the Lions still surrounded Big Spring in strength, but to no avail. The senior members of the newly enlarged colony convened a meeting at which it was decided that, with the clansmen now at their weakest, and with the appearance of the New Orleans gang expected at any time, a breakout had to be attempted without delay. There is only one way for the colony to reach Tucson overland, and that is to follow the remains of Interstate Freeway 10 through the arid mountainous territory of western Texas. Precisely halfway between Big Spring and Tucson is situated the city of El Paso, which is chosen as the colony's first destination. The city lies at the end of a long, steep, and tortuous stretch of mountain highway, and few doubt that the journey to El Paso will prove the most exacting test of strength and endurance any of you are ever likely to face during your long journey to California. About the game rules, they are the same as last time, with the endurance points and combat skill points for melee attacks. All those stats have been taken from the previous book as well, so they carry over. It's 18 for close combat skill, and endurance is at 29, plus 2 for those melee weapons that we had already. Regarding the homebrew rules, they're the same as before as well. If we die, we'll go back, take another choice. If we die again, we'll go back again, take another choice, until there's none. If we die in combat, we're going to take the flee option if there's one, or an evade option, or escape option, or whatever it will be called. If there's none, we'll go back, take another choice. And if there's no other options, then we'll go through the fight as if we won, even if we didn't, so that we are not playing this game tomorrow morning. For our starting skills, we're getting 4 extra points because of the first book that we completed. So I put all those points into stealth, because even if it's a dumb stat, it was pretty useful in the first book. And I think I'm quite okay with all the other skills I had already. So to start, as someone has another idea, it will be a driving skill 3, shooting 4, fieldcraft 5, stealth 7, but minus 3 here, and minus 2 here. So pretty much no stealth actually. And perception 4. Like I said previously, all the equipment from the previous book carry on over. So we had 2 meals here, a rope, always useful to die, a Geiger counter, solar torch, flexible saw, mirror, a gold nugget, never know when we need to waste someone else, a CB radio, the one from Puppy Well, and a telescope taken from the spy's corpse. Start with the full water canteen, and I re-rolled the medkit. It wasn't really clear, but it seemed like the most logical thing. And Project Aeon notes kind of hinted towards that as well. So I re-rolled the medkit. We had none last time, and now we're starting with 8 medkit units instead of the 11 we had last book. And we use them all, and more than those. Ammunitions are carried over as well. We still add 1 9mm round, 7 7.62mm round for the rifle, and we add 2 12-gauge rounds for a shotgun that we don't have. And we still have 17 space in our ammunition pouch. For the weapons, missile weapons that we carry, we still have a pistol, machine pistol, they both use 9mm, and a rifle. So right now I think we can pretty much only use the rifle for the beginning of the book, or outside one shot of pistol. The other weapons are melee weapons, a flick knife because it looks cool, and a club just to be different from a knife. Both are plus 2 combat skill though. And that's how it is for the equipment. Nothing was added, no plus, no choice of... Well, I could swap things out, but I think we're good with what we had already anyway. There were no new items compared to the first book. And that's pretty much it for the setup for character creation actually. So let's begin with the book number 2 from Freeway Warrior, called Slaughter Mountain Run. Throughout a long and moonless night, the colony loads up and manhandles into line the vehicles that are to transport you west to Tucson. Preparations for the breakout did not begin until an hour after sundown, for Amex Gold has men positioned on nearby Signal Mountain, with orders to observe and report all activity within Big Spring. These lookouts are especially vigilant. The leader is expecting the colony to attempt an escape, and they know that their lives will be forfeit should they fail to predict exactly when it will occur. In near blackness, you service and refuel your roadster by sense of touch alone, while all around you the chill night air is alive with movement and whispering as your fellow colonists furtively attend to their allotted tasks. Although you cannot see them, you know exactly the positions of the 5 other road vehicles that comprise the convoy. At the head of the line, 20 paces back from the West Freeway gate, is the armored tow truck that will lead the breakout. The driver is Pecos, Pete Tyler, and beside him you can picture his brother Rex riding shotgun. In the open back of their truck is Rickenbacker, a former flying circus stunt pilot, who has chosen to ride out in the open so that he can look out after Icarus, his motorized hang glider, which by now we will have carefully dismantled and strapped aboard. Next in line are 2 M-Corp Land Cruisers, solar-assisted road buses that carry the Big Spring colonists, and behind them is positioned the gasoline tanker with Uncle Jonas at the wheel. The DC-1 school bus is next, and your roadster last, the back marker, until the convoy is clear of Big Spring. Once your preparations are complete, you leave your vehicle and feel your way along the side of the school bus towards the boarding door. Cutter is sitting in the driver's seat, staring thoughtfully at the night sky, his face lit by the faint green glow of the instrument panel. "Carl, you'd better get back and watch out for Pickle's speed signal," he says, on seeing you at his side. "We're out of here in 5 minutes. "I've decided I'm not going to Tucson with the convoy," you reply, your voice steady and resolute. "I'm not gonna abandon Kate. I'm the only hope she's got of cutting loose of that psychopath Mad Dog Michigan, and I'm not gonna betray that hope. He's sure to have taken her with him to San Angelo, and I've thought out a plan to spring her from there while he's busy fixing a deal with the Angelinos gang." "I understand how you feel, Carl," says Cutter sympathetically, "but you've a duty to the rest of the colony that you can't just ignore. You're the convoy scout, the convoy's here and here's. We're gonna need you to get us across the mountain in one piece." Rickenbacker and his microglider can scout for the convoy. With a CB on board, he could stay in radio contact with Pop and be your eyes in the sky. It'd make the best scout the convoy could ask for, you reply convincingly. Cotter stares at you in silence. Begrudgingly, he nods in agreement. "Okay, Carl. As soon as we flee safely away, and from here I'll talk to the others and get them to listen to your plan. But first we gotta concern ourselves with getting out of it in one piece. Agreed?" "Agreed," you reply, relieved that at last you have told someone your decision to rescue Kate. Suddenly the discordant blare of an auto horn splits the silence. It is Pickle's Pete's signal to the other drivers to start their engines. Quickly you return to your roadster and, as you fire up its engine, you see the twin tail lights of the school bus shrinking in the dark as it heads towards the now open freeway gate. The breakout has begun. The convoy leaves the sanctuary of Big Spring with its headlights blazing and its gas pedal pressed flat to the floor. The deafening motor noise rolls across the surrounding land like thunder, and the twisted auto wrecks that litter the section of Interstate 20 seem to flash past with ever-increasing speed as you accelerate your car into the slipstream of the school bus. Above, you see a smoky pinpoint of fire climb into the night sky and then explode with a brilliant flash. It is a signal flare, and is being launched by the startled group of Maverick gang lookouts. We're manning a barricade less than half a mile ahead. The barricade comprises a line of old cars and other debris that has been dragged into a haphazard line across the freeway. As the tow truck screams towards its center, You can just hear the cackle of automatic gunfire above the roar of the convoy's engines. Then with a grinding crash, the truck slams into the barricade and plows straight through without slowing. Torn and buckled sheets of rusty metal are spun skywards, together with the bodies of those mavericks too slow to jump clear. Still in line, the convoy follows Pico's Pete through the ragged gap carved by his truck. As you approach it, you grit your teeth and tighten your grip on the steering wheel. You're right, you notice the steep embankment that borders this section of the freeway. An old panel truck is perched near the top of the slope, held there in defiance of gravity by blocks of concrete that are wedged in front of its wheels. Feverishly, two mavericks are trying to pull away these chucks, and as you reach the gap, they succeed. Your stomach churns as the panel truck comes carrying down the embankment on a collision course with your car. 3 options. You can try to avoid the runaway panel truck by swerving to the left, or we can brake heavily in an attempt to avoid a collision, or accelerate in an attempt to get out of its path. I'm not sure braking is a good idea, but the other two are quite better ones. I'm not sure that swerving will be good if they shoot straight. Even if we swerve left, the truck will hit right anyway. I think it's better to simply accelerate, try to go through their plans. The mighty V8 engine growls like an angry tiger as a quart of fuel is force-fed into the cylinders. The effort is breathtaking and immediate. The roadster surges forward and you feel as if you are being sucked into your driving seat as it gathers speed rapidly. For a few vital seconds, the thrill of the acceleration distracts your attention from the panel truck. By mischance, the vehicle reaches the bottom of the embankment. It lances off a heap of debris and is sent spinning wildly across the freeway. Your heart leaps into your mouth the moment you see it appear directly in your way. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your current driving skill score. We're going to roll d10s as usual. 7 plus 3, it's 10. If it's 5 or more. You act purely on instinct, yet the speed and precision of your actions are enough to save your life. Skillfully, you decelerate, using the roadster's gears and brakes in unison to prevent the car from ramming into the panel truck. Then before the engine stalls, or the surviving mavericks are able to close in, you pump the gas and take off once more, your eyes now glued firmly on the tail lights of the school bus. A few poorly aimed bullets chase your escape, but you soon catch up with the convoy and pass beyond the range of the mavericks' guns. You can see the first rays of dawn light in your rear view mirror as you pull out from behind the bus and start to overtake the convoy. As you draw level with the tanker, a watery spray speckles your windshield and you catch the strong, unmistakable smell of gasoline in the air. A stream of the precious liquid is escaping from a bullet hole in the tanker's side, and as you draw level with the cab, you signal anxiously to Uncle Jonas to stop at the first opportunity. You have covered less than a mile when the freeway approaches the ruins of Stanton, a town long since looted and forgotten by the mavericks, and you bring the convoy to a halt. Pico's Pete offers to help Uncle Jonas patch up the damage, and while you are waiting for them to finish their work, he asks Carter to help you tell the rest of the colony your plan to rescue Kate. At first, there are many who think you are being crazy and irresponsible, but gradually, after listening to Carter's pleas on your behalf, they relent and finally consent to your rescue attempt. Your plan is to go it alone to San Angelo. When you arrive there, you will infiltrate the town while Mad Dog Michigan and his gang are busy wheeling and dealing with the Angelinos. Once you have found and rescued Kate, you will leave the city and make your way west to rendezvous with the convoy at a town called Kent, situated at the fork where Interstate 20 joins Interstate 10. The rendezvous is planned to take place exactly 7 days from now. If either you or the colony fails to get there by midday, the party that does arrive is to assume the worst and press on to El Paso without delay. Before you leave, 2 large plastic containers, filled with sufficient fuel to enable you to complete the 400-mile detour you have in mind, are loaded into the trunk of your roadster. Then, with the tanker repaired and your preparations complete, the colonists, especially your aunt and uncle, bid you an emotional farewell. They are fearful of what might befall you, but all, without exception, admire your bravery and determination to save the girl you love. Silently, you watch the convoy rumble out of the Stanton, until it has passed beyond the western horizon. The sun has now risen, and the potholed remains of State Highway 137 can be seen cutting a straight line to the south. A wave of uncertainty settles your stomach as you think about the difficult mission you have set yourself, but you are quick to dismiss these fears. I've got a job to do and I'm gonna see it gets done. Shout as you start your engine and point your car southwards. That's pretty much where the X is, where the split occurs. And we're supposed to go south here to San Angelo. I guess afterwards we'll go south again to El Dorado and Sonora. Take Highway 10 to go back to Kent, somewhere down the road. Where is Kent? Here, Kent. Near the Apache Mountains. Really a big mountainous region. So I think we'll do the triangle with the convoy. For 17 miles, you follow the 137 south. The surface of the highway is so poor that were it not for the line of shattered telegraph poles that run parallel to the road, you will find it impossible to tell the difference between the highway and the open ground. It takes you an hour to reach a junction where the remains of another highway, the 158, cuts east-west across your path. Its condition is marginally better, and for the first time since you left Stanton, you are able to increase your speed to 30 miles per hour as you head east towards Sterling City. From there, you will make your way along Highway 87 to San Angelo. It is nearly noon when you see a ramshackle town appear out of the heat haze that dances on the road ahead. Now the temperature is well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and as you drive along its deserted main street, you think about stopping to rest for a while in the shade. 2 options: we can stop there at this down, or choose not to stop to continue driving to Sterling City. Usually I would be more to stop, but we are pretty well stoked, and we lost nothing so far. Maybe we could find some ammunition though. We'll take a brief stop there. All the houses and stores of this forgotten town have collapsed long ago, all that is, except for 2. Both of these sorry sand-blown shells stand on either side of an alley at the edge of town, and it is here that you decide to park your roadster. Quickly you discover that the buildings were once a hardware store and a tiny one-pump gas station. You can investigate the derelict hardware store or take a closer look at the gas station. I think the hardware store is the better of the 2. In the US, all the hardware stores have gone, it seems, so that's what we learned in the first book. You enter through a gaping hole in the store's front window. The shattered remains crunch loudly beneath the soles of your boots as you explore its darkened interior. The place is a shambles, the fittings unstuck, having been exposed to the elements for many years. It is a relief to be out of the midday sun, but you soon experience difficulty with your breathing, for the air is becoming saturated with fine dust stirred by your movement. We can either continue our search of this the choke store or return to the roadster and leave the town. Sounds like a warning before something bad happens. And we have already a lot of stuff, so I'll be gambling no more ammo and see where the 7 rounds of 7.62 will carry us. The heat of the sun hits you like a blazing hammer as you walk back to your roadster. Slowly you ease yourself into the driving seat and pause for a few moments to look at your map. Let's look at the map. Estimate that Sterling City is a little over 30 miles away, less than an hour's drive if the highway and your luck hold out. Pretty much here, I think. And must now take a drink or lose 3 endurance points. Before you leave this ruined town, a place once known as Garden City. On every side, a desolate plain of arid, lifeless earth stretches to the horizon. The highway meanders across this wasteland, following the gentle curve of a dry water course that the ranchers and oilmen of this county once knew as Lacey Creek. You have been driving for half an hour when you see a signpost, its blister metal plate announcing your approach to the Sterling County line. As you cross this boundary, your engine begins to splutter and backfire. Pick a random number from the random number table. 8. It's 5 to 9. Repeatedly, you pump the gas pedal, and gradually, after a bout of coughing and popping, the engine clears and begins to pick up speed. Confident that the fault has rectified itself, you relax and accelerate away. You have driven 10 miles when on the horizon you see a girder bridge appear. It carries the highway across the North Concho River, and although it appears to be intact and passable, you're worried by the sight of a lazy plume of wood smoke that is rising close to its approach ramp. If you possess binoculars or a telescope, you have a telescope. You pull over to the side of the road and focus on the distant bridge. 2 clansmen, both stripped to the waist, are roasting something on a spit that is suspended over a small campfire. Their motorcycles are parked beside them, nose to tail, across the road so that they obstruct the entrance to the bridge. The 2 men appear to be occupied with the cooking of their meal and are, for now, unaware of your presence. 2 options. You can launch a surprise attack on the 2 clansmen, or stay where we are and wait for them to leave the bridge. I'm not sure they're going to leave the bridge. He seems to be guarding this entrance, so it sounds more like surprise attack time. Using the cover afforded by the undercut banks of Lacey Creek, you are able to creep to within 20 yards of the bridge unseen. The harsh, greasy smell of roasted coyote wafts over your hiding place, as silently you watch the taller of the 2 clansmen fend the campfire with his hat, while his partner kneels down and carves himself a large slice of the blackened meat. He chews it without enthusiasm, before finally spitting it out in disgust. "God and dog meat," he growls. "I ain't ever gonna get used to it." He gulps a mouthful of water from his canteen as he rises to his feet. Your pulse quickens as he turns and starts to walk straight towards you. If you have a missile weapon and wish to use it, makes noise, but better to fight them from far away than in melee, I guess. Silently, you draw your gun and slip off the safety catch. The Klansman is less than 6 feet away when he sees you crouching on the dry riverbed. His eyes widen and he opens his mouth to scream a warning to his partner, but it is a scream of pain that leaves his lips when you open fire at his chest. There goes our last pistol round. As the Klansman's body doubles into the gully, you catch sight of his partner running head down towards the bridge. He pauses to grab a machine pistol from his motorcycle before diving for cover behind one of the iron bridge supports. Seconds later, he reappears and fires a stream of bullets at your precision. You keep your head low and wait for a lull in the shooting before you break cover and return fire at the Klansman. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your current shooting skill score. 7 plus 4. For every round of fire that you wish to discharge at your opponent, add 1 point. But we need 10 or more, so I guess that's it. Should count the first round though. So that means 11 plus 1, 12. Your total score is 10 or more. You raise your head and take aim at the bridge, but before you squeeze the trigger, you notice that the Klansman is no longer there. He has changed his position. He is now lying flat on his stomach behind the rear wheel of his motorcycle. Swiftly, you swing around and open fire at the bike. Your gunfire rips into the rear tire and catches the Klansman full in the face, killing him instantly. Before you bury them, you search both bodies and the bikes and discover the following useful items. A pistol with 4 rounds of 9mm ammunition. I'll gladly take the 4 rounds. A dagger. A water canteen with 3 drinks, so we're full again. A leather face mask. Be useful to impersonate them, maybe. Let's drop the mirror since it hasn't been used in the previous book. A rope, we already have one. A machine pistol with 12 rounds of 9mm ammunition, so we're up to 16. We can now use the machine pistol. Cigarette lighter, high explosive grenade, and enough painkillers for 1 medikit unit. There remains no trace of the bikers or their machines when eventually you complete your grisly task of burial. Wearily, you return to your roadster and begin the next stage of your journey to San Angelo. Less than a mile beyond the bridge, you see a deserted stretch of Highway 87. You join the freeway, heading south, and within a few minutes you catch sight of a town on the road ahead. A glance at your map confirms that you are approaching Sterling City. What little of Sterling City that survived the icy post-Holocaust years has long since been gutted or looted by gangs of roving Klansmen. Many have left their mark, sprayed on the sides of auto wrecks or scrawled in jagged letters across warehouse walls. You bring your roadster to a halt and survey the ruins for some sign of life. The place reminds you of the city punk zones of Fort Worth, and as you scour the shadowy doorways, an uneasy feeling grows in the pit of your stomach. Two options, we can stay on the highway and drive through Sterling City, or leave the highway and make a detour. Go for the detour, I guess. You leave the highway and drive due east across the dusty plain. In the distance you can see a derelict ranch house and traces of a highway that passes close by. You are about to drive past the ranch when you notice a pickup truck parked outside an adjoining barn. Judging by the condition of the vehicle's bodywork, it is still serviceable. Two options, we can take a look at the pickup truck, or ignore the truck and press on with the detour. Maybe there's stuff in the truck. Or maybe there's an ally somewhere between the city gangs. You bring your roadster to a halt beside a pickup, but leave the engine idling in case you have to make a fast getaway. After checking to make sure that it is not booby-trapped, you lift the hood and take a look at the truck's engine. The ground beneath it is stained black where oil has leaked from a shattered pump. The damage looks irreparable. Inside the cab you find a CB radio attached to the dashboard. It has its own self-contained power supply, and the unit is still in good working order. Having satisfied your curiosity, you return to your car and continue on your way to San Angelo. You complete your detour around Sterling City without incident, and rejoin Highway 87 a few miles south of the town. The hour you spent driving across the dusty plain has made you very thirsty, and you must now take a drink, or lose 3 endurance points. The freeway follows a wide, rock-strewn gully that was once the North Concho River. You are staring at its deadwater course, trying to imagine what the river must have looked like before the day, when a road sign flashes past. You stop the car and turn back to read it. It says, Brume, 2 miles. If you possess a CB radio, you do. It occurs to you that the colony may still be close enough for radio contact, as it may be the last chance you will get to speak to them before your rendezvous at Kent 1 week from now. You decide to give it a try. You invert the handset of your CB and key in the frequency that PopUL monitors aboard a school bus. But for some unknown reason, the frequency is saturated with static, and you are unable to transmit. You search for a clear channel, and by chance, you lock on to part of a two-way conversation. Okay, Gold, sit tight and quit your belly aching. I'm sending some of my men back to cover it. You just put a tail on them, keep them in sight. We'll let them run a while and then hit them when they reach the mountains. You copy? Over. There's a loud burst of static, and then a voice replies. I copy, Gold out. The channel falls silent and you are left staring at the handset, trying to make some sense of what you have just overheard. And you hear quite a different sound. A sound that sends a shiver of fear coursing down your spine. The unmistakable roar of motorcycle engines is coming from the direction of Brume, and as you focus on that distant town, you see a dull little cloud of dust rising above its ruins. You know that it can only be a large pack of clansmen and that you must find somewhere to hide yourself and your roadster before they show up. The dried-up bed of the North Concho River offers the only feasible place to take cover from the approaching bikers. Quickly you pull off the highway and search for a place to enter the riverbed as the first of the bikers comes riding out of the town. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your perception skill score. 7 plus 4, 11 if it's 5 or more. Fighting back your fear, you try to ignore the sound of the engines and concentrate instead on finding a place where you can descend the steep bank and enter the riverbed. Your determination pays off, and you are able to get yourself and your roadster under cover before the clansmen are close enough to spot you. With bated breath, you watch as the pack, 50 riders strong, roars along the highway. The sight of them passing raises your spirits a little, Or at least there will now be 50 fewer to face when you reach San Angelo. When the pack is nothing but a cloud of dust on the northern horizon, you start up your engine and head back onto the highway towards Bruma. Pass between the shadowed stores and houses of Bruma, with your nerves on edge, half expecting to run into a clan patrol or fall prey to an ambush. Yet your visit passes without incident, and soon you find yourself back on the open highway, heading southeast to San Angelo. If you are hungry and during your drive you must eat a meal, or lose 3 endurance points. When you first see San Angelo, the sun is a quarter hidden below the skyline. It's a red glow reflecting upon a cluster of tall buildings that stand at the city center. They are the ravaged shells of banks and state offices that were the pride of this once prosperous city before the day. Surrounding them for many miles is a sea of dust and rubble. Your skin prickles when you realize that this is all that remains of the city's suburbs, an area that once was home to more than 1 million Texans. You're about to drive towards the center when you notice that a fortified wall has been erected around the tall buildings of the downtown area, and the northern highway approaches are controlled by roadblocks. It will be near suicidal to approach any closer, so you make a wide detour around the city limits and try an approach from the south. It takes nearly 2 hours to reach the south side of San Angelo, by which time night has fallen. Fortunately, your decision to go south has paid off. This section of the city is virtually uninhabited. Anyway, by the Angelinos, and your approach goes undetected. Hidden by the darkness, you are able to get within a mile of the downtown area before you encounter any sign of clan activity. You know that if your rescue of Kate is to be successful, you must not allow your roadster to fall into enemy hands, and with this doubt in mind, you search for somewhere safe to leave it while you venture into the downtown area on foot. An underground parking lot situated below the looted ruins of a Sears mega market, damn, Sears still exists, provides just such a safe haven, and it is here that you hide your car. You are tired after the rigors of your journey, so you decide to get a few hours sleep and attempt your rescue at first light. You awake shortly after dawn, your neck stiff and aching after an uncomfortable night's sleep. Little lights filtering from the surface of this underground lot, but there is sufficient for you to be able to take stock of your surroundings and make sure that you are alone. After checking your equipment, you leave your roadster and ascend to the surface, where you make a mental note of its location before beginning your trek towards the downtown stronghold of the Angelinos. The heat is bearable at this early hour, and you encounter no sign of the city's occupants. As stealthily you make your way through the shattered streets. An hour later, you reach the southern section of their perimeter wall and stop to observe those who are guarding it. They look like a motley group of criminals armed with an assortment of weapons and equipment, much of which appears rusty and incapable of functioning. All that identifies them as Angelinos is the symbol they wear on their jackets and t-shirts, the skull of a longhorn steer. After having studied the defenses and watched the guards for the better part of an hour, you decide that the best place to gain entry to the stronghold is through an office block that interrupts the perimeter wall. The wooden planks that have been used to seal it are warped and split, and gaining entry to the building shall not prove too difficult. Patiently, you wait for the right moment before you break cover and sprint across the rubble-strewn street towards the main entrance. The rodent timbers are easily torn away from the front door, and in minutes you have gained access to the building. In the middle of the lobby, you discover a stainless steel replica of an oil derrick, standing 12 feet high, on which there is an inscription that reveals the former owners of the block, the Lone Star Oil and Gas Company. In order to emerge somewhere inside the perimeter wall, you must discover an exit on the north side of this building, so you set off immediately in that direction. Beyond the lobby area, you can see a row of elevator doors, and 2 corridors disappearing to the left and right, can either explore the right corridor or search the left corridor. So between left and right, we always go left. This corridor services a number of offices and conference rooms before it ends at a wide staircase leading downwards. You descend 3 floors and discover the remains of a large private restaurant, which, along with the kitchen, occupies most of the sub-basement level. A small fire exit sign hangs over the double doors leading to the kitchen, and you head straight for them. As you are crossing the restaurant floor, your rumbling stomach reminds you that you have yet to eat anything today. Then the thought occurs to you that there could still be some canned food in the kitchen, and you decide to search it before you leave the building. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your perception skill score. 7 plus 4, 11. If your total score is now 11 or less. Push open the doors and enter the gloomy kitchen. Out of the corner of your eye, you notice a movement. You turn around and see a clansman crouching in front of a food locker, trying to prise the door open with the edge of a meat cleaver. He sees you and his eyes open wide with shock, before you can draw a weapon and fire. He draws the cleaver back and hurls it at your chest. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your stealth skill score. So that's 5 plus 7, 12, minus 2, so 10, minus 2, 8. If it's 8 or more, whew. Perchance we ate a meal before. You duck to avoid a spinning cleaver, and it whistles over your head to strike the tiled wall with a ringing clang. Cursing you, the clansman reaches for a machine pistol that is propped against the food locker. If you possess a missile pistol and wish to use it, or maybe not here, we're supposed to be stealthy. In a desperate attempt to reach him before he can cock and fire his gun, you race towards your adversary and launch yourself at his chest. The shock of seeing you charging at him makes him hesitate for a few vital seconds, and when your fists connect with his body, the force of impact leaves him winded and stunned. Still, he fights to free himself from your grip, and as he wriggles free, he unsheathes a knife from his boot and lunges at your neck. Rock Blitz. Close combat skill 15. That's minus, plus 3 for us, and plus 5 with a knife. And he has 24 endurance points. Owing to the speed of your attack and your first strike, add 2 points. Your close combat skill, so plus 7. For the duration of the combat. As we recall, the combat results table in Freeway Warrior is random, contrarily to Lone Wolf, which increases. We have a higher score on the dice. Usually it's a better score on the combat ratio table, but not in Freeway Warrior. Usually 5, 3, 7, or 0 are quite good roll. With a plus 7, should roll 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, or 9, or 0. So pretty much all rolls are good, actually. Except 1 or 2 of them. First round, a 9. No damage against 6. Second round, 8. 2 damage against 5. Third round, a 4. 2 damage against 5. Eight. That's 2 against 5 again. Those are pretty much the worst rolls except one that we can get here. 9. And he's dead. 6 damage, though. A lot. The surly clansman clutches at his wounds, curses, and then falls dead at your feet. Judging from the long-horned skull painted on the back of his leather vest, you have just laid to rest your first Angelino. On the floor close by, you find his weapons and equipment. A machine pistol containing 18 rounds of 9mm ammunition, so let's drop the 12 gauge. Gives us 8 spaces. Can bring only 28 of this. The ammo pouch is full. A knife, need, backpack, which holds the following items. Flexible saw, we have one already. A grenade, water canteen. Back to full with water. Small blanket. It's really useful, I think, in the middle of Texas. Enough bandages, sulfonamides, and antiseptics for 3 medikit units, so we're full in medkit units as well. Let's use 1. Gaze to be back to nearly full endurance. In addition to these items, a search of the kitchen also reveals the following: a meat cleaver, plus 3 combat skill. Oh, that's nice. Drop the club. A bread knife. And bread knife is as powerful in melee as a flick knife. Okay. Enough canned food for 5 meals. Let's drop the leather face mask, I guess. Take an extra meal. Before leaving the kitchen, you eye the clansman's body in an empty refrigerator. Then you hurry through the fire escape door and make your way up a flight of rusty steps that leads to a service alley at the rear of the building. Your escape from the building goes unnoticed by the few clan patrols that are operating in the area. Making Might has brought most of his men up to the central and northern sectors, partly as a show of strength to Mad Dog Michigan, and partly as a precaution in case Mad Dog's talk of an alliance turns out to be a bluff, and he is really here to try to take over the city. The further you venture north, the more clan activity you find, and you are forced to stay hidden for longer periods, as you snake your way around the ruin towards the center of the stronghold. You're working on the assumption that Kate is with Mad Dog Michigan, and he is likely to be found where the number of clansmen is greatest. Just shortly before noon, when you catch sight of a building that dominates the center of San Angelo, the Reagan Memorial Stadium. Scores of motorcycles and their riders are gathered around its entrance, where 2 large tattered banners are fluttering symbolically in the breeze. One bears the lions and mark of the Detroit Lions clan. The other is emblazoned with the long-horned steer skull symbol of the Angelinos clan. From your location opposite the entrance, you overhear 2 Angelinos talking. You learn that some sort of motorcycle race is to take place here this afternoon, to celebrate the singing of a pact between the two clans. Now you feel sure that Mad Dog and Kate are here somewhere inside the stadium, and you apply yourself to finding a way in. After watching the entrance for over an hour, only two options appear open to you. You can try to hide in one of the trucks that are carrying spares for the clansman's bike, in the hope that they will enter the stadium before the race. Or you can attempt to scale the stadium wall at one of the many places where it has partially collapsed. So the two options, we can either stow away in one of the service trucks, or climb over the wall. Our stealth sucks though, but we have a rope, so we can die. I'm sure it will ask for a rope. But I don't believe in the stealth required to do it. I think it's safer to stow away and pray, but it will require stealth as well. Less dangerous though. You wait until the stadium gate opens and the crowd of clansmen starts to enter before you make your move. Purposefully, you stride across the wide avenue that surrounds the stadium, trying not to look directly at any of the bikers or attract their attention. One of the trucks in particular has caught your eye and you head straight for it. It is towing a trailer that contains two powerful looking motorcycles, and you are convinced that they are to be used in the races. If any of the trucks are to enter the stadium, then this one surely will. There is nobody in the truck, and its rear door is unlocked, so quickly you climb aboard and find yourself a hiding place behind two large drums of gasoline. After a few minutes, you hear somebody climb into the cab and start the engine. Then the truck moves away and you sense by its direction that it is approaching the stadium gate. You see the shadow of the arch fall across the trailer. And then suddenly the vehicle halts. Your heart pounds in your chest as you hear the rear door creak open and sense someone clambering aboard. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your stealth score. So that's 1. It's most probably a fail. Plus 7, minus 2, minus 2 again, so that's 3 plus 1, 4. If your total score is now 6 or less. You hold your breath and try not to move as the clansman ramages through a toolbox less than 4 feet from where you are crouching. Unfortunately, the dust he is stirring up causes you to sneeze, betraying your presence. Suddenly, one of the gasoline drums is rolled aside and you feel 2 strong hands grab your jacket and drag you to your feet. "What are you up to?" growls the scar-faced Detroit lion, his stinking breath making you pull away in disgust. "Sabotage, is it?" he spits accusingly. "Nah, I ain't no saboteur," you reply, stalling for time as you let your hand drift slowly towards your close combat weapon. "I'm an Angelino who just wants to see the race. I'm supposed to be patrolling the South Zone, but ain't nothing ever happens down there. Gimme a break, will ya?" As your fingers close around your weapon, you see something that makes you hesitate. At the rear of the truck, you glimpse a large crowd of clansmen who are queuing to enter the stadium. The sight dissuades you from attacking your accuser, and instead you decide to try offering him a bride. If you possess a bottle of Bourbon, we don't. Can I not bribe him with a gold nugget, though? What are you offering in return for a free ride and a ringside seat, eh? Replies the clansman. Slowly, you unshoulder your backpack and flip open the buckles. Choose, you say, inviting him to look at the items you are carrying. Roughly, he pulls the pack from your hands and tips the contents onto the floor of the truck. I'll take these two, he says. You can keep the rest the junk. Erase from your action chart those items which you have noted in the second and third. Well, I think he means the squares. Second and third sections of your backpack item list. These are the items chosen by our clansman in return for free passage into the stadium. Which means that he takes a meal and a rope. Sure, man. Go for it. Well, we lost our rope by not climbing the wall. It's a different scenario than usual, but we still lost our rope in a kind of climbing scenario. If you possess less than 2 backpack items, you must erase either 2 medikit units or 1 close combat weapon instead. With a smile on his face, the clansman pockets your bribe. Sure, meal and a rope. And returns to the cab. He restarts the truck, but shortly it stops once again. He has drawn up alongside 3 other trucks in a section of the stadium that has been turned into a pits area. You leave the truck and slip away through the crowds of clan mechanics and riders towards an empty section of the enclosure. From a position high among the chairs, you look down at the rows of empty seats that encircle the dusty arena and observe the preparations taking place around the perimeter track. The stadium once hosted international sporting events, many of which were televised and beamed live around the world. Now it plays host to a sporting event of a very different kind. The Angelinos have challenged Alliance to put forward 4 of their best riders for a 20-lap motorcycle race around the arena. The track itself reminds you of an old film that you saw when you were a child, a film about the wild chariot races that took place in ancient Rome. Today's event is meant to be a friendly challenge to celebrate the singing of their alliance, but with clan honor at stake, the race will undoubtedly be fought out in deadly earnest. Facing you on the far side of the stadium is the glass-fronted observation block that was once used by television and radio commentators. Your curiosity is aroused by it when you notice that the door to the block is heavily guarded. Fixedly you stare at its full-length windows and count 5 occupants. 4 clansmen and 1 blonde-haired girl. You cannot see her face clearly, but you know that she is Kate Norton. The race is about to begin. 8 bikers are drawn up in a line at one end of the arena, each man standing astride his machine and revving its engine in response to the loud cheers of the clansmen watching. The riders have their eyes fixed on a pot-bellied Angelino who is perched atop a wooden tower in the center of the track. Above his head he holds a checkered flag, and as he brings his arm down, the crowd screams and the riders surge away from the line. Under cover of the noise and commotion of the race, you approach the observation block. An enclosed corridor leads to a flight of iron stairs, where 2 burly clansmen, one an Angelino, the other a Detroit Lion, stand on guard with machine pistols at the ready. At the top of the stairs is the door to the block itself. The noise of the crowd and the roar of the motorcycles have helped you so far, but the race is now into its 14th lap, and you know that if you are to succeed in freeing Kate, you must get past these guards and storm the observation block before the race ends. If you possess an HE grenade, nope. A signal flare, nope. A siren and a missile weapon, nope. Possess none of these items. Yep, no items. All we have is junk, said the other clansman. To your left, you notice the open doorway of an empty locker room, and quickly you slip inside to avoid being seen by the two guards. In order to reach the observation room door, you will have to deal with these guards as quickly and efficiently as possible. A glance into the corridor establishes their position before you act. You possess a missile weapon and sufficient ammunition for 2 rounds of fire. We do. Automatically, you check to see that your safety catch is set on fire. Then you take a deep breath as you get ready to make your move. Machine pistol will be a better option here since there are multiple targets. You can either use a pistol, machine pistol, or a shotgun, or a rifle. We don't have a shotgun. Rifle, kind of close range. Not a good idea. Pistol, bam bam, I don't believe. Yeah, machine pistol, nothing else. Will take a lot of bullets though. You move out into the corridor, you G12 machine pistol, held chest high, ready to fire. Your finger grazes the trigger and a burst of automatic fire sweeps the guards in a deadly figure of 8 pattern, dropping them in a tangled heap at the foot of the stairs. Remember to deduct 6 rounds. Well, it costs less than I thought. Only 6. Not 12. You rush forward, pausing briefly at the bottom of the staircase to check that the 2 guards are no longer a threat. Lying across the bloodstained chest of one of the men is a machine pistol with 24 rounds. Damn, we're back to full. And attached to the belt of the other is an HE grenade. Well, let's take it for once. Stepping on over the bodies, you begin to ascend the stairs to the observation room, but you're only halfway up when you see the door start to open. Drawing on your reserves of nervous energy, you race up the last few steps and lash out at the door with the sole of your boot. The door flies wide open and slams against the wall, sending the red-headed clansman who was about to investigate the noise sprawling flat on his back. Inside the observation room, you see 2 men, one dressed in a flamboyant mix of bright colors, and the other attired in somber black, seated at a table, with a map of the United States spread before them. A muscular clansman, his chest crisscrossed with cartridge belts, stands behind the man in black, and beyond him, huddled in the corner of the room, is Kate. Clearly she has suffered at the hands of Mad Dog Michigan, and the sight of her bruised face and her pained, despairing expression steers you to a fit of rage. For a frozen moment, the room is deadly quiet, and then the man in black barks an order, and the bullet-belted clansman rushes forward, drawing a wide-bladed Bowie knife as he runs. If you possess a missile weapon and wish to use it, yeah, don't bring a sword to a gunfight. Clansman screams like a maniac as he unsheaths his Bowie knife. He is barely 5 feet away when coolly you raise your gun, wind it at his bullet-laden chest, and squeeze the trigger. You can use either a pistol, machine pistol, or a rifle. Pistol is enough. We saw in Indiana Jones movies that is enough usually. The crack of your pistol shot is echoed by the clansman's shocked scream. He drops the knife and clutches his hands to his wound before crashing lifelessly to the floor. With fear in their eyes, the other 2 reach for their pistols as they back away hastily from the guard's blood-stained body. You identify the brightly dressed clansman as Mekong Mike, where his tan and face bears a longhorn steer skull tattooed across the forehead. The other man, who is dressed in a black, wide-shouldered leather jacket, can be none other than Mad Dog Michigan himself. He looks older than you had imagined him, his receding hair graying slightly at the temples, yet despite his age, there is no doubting the unmistakable aura of power that surrounds him. For a moment you stare into his cold grey eyes and glimpse the vengeful evil that lurks there. Then you remember the danger of your situation. Mekong Mike has drawn his pistol, but before he can fire, you rush forward and whip his wrist with the barrel of your gun. He yelps in pain and drops the Beretta Auto to the floor. But there is a blade in his other hand, and it is flashing towards your chest. Desperately, you turn it aside. You have lost the advantage of surprise, however, and Mekong Mike seizes the initiative. Mekong Mike, close combat skill 19. So it's a -1 fight plus the meat cleaver, so it's a +2 combat ratio fight. And he has 26 endurance. We need to win the combat in less than 8 rounds. Good rolls with the +2 combat ratio are 3, 7, 9, and 0. There we go. A 3. 1 damage against 6. 9. No damage against 8. Oh, 2. 2 damage against 5. 7. 1 against 6. Oh, almost dead. And that's one too much round. And a 1. Really crappy roll to end this fight. 7 against 3. He's dead anyway, but we lost a big 7 endurance points because of that last roll. And the fight lasts 5 rounds, so we're good. The moment you strike your killing blow, a loud cheer fills the stadium. Ricky Riot, the Top Angelino's rider, has just crossed the line and won the motorcycle race. Mekong Mike curses you with his dying breath, and as he falls to the floor, you suddenly realize that Mad Dog Michigan is watching you from the opposite side of the map table. He finishes speaking into a radio handset, and then, with a cruel sneer, levels his pistol, taking deliberate aim at your head. He's about to squeeze the trigger when Kate appears behind him with a wooden stool clutched unsteadily in her hands. With one fell stroke, she smashes it down upon his head, leaving him sprawled unconscious on the floor. Should kill the guy, not left him conscious there. You rush forward to take Kate in your arms, and she yields to your embrace with a kiss that is warm and passionate. "I thought I'd never see you again, Carl," she says, her voice trembling and her wide blue eyes brimful with tears of joy. "They told me you were dead." "Do I look dead?" you reply half jokingly. "No," she laughs. "You look just great." And the sound of running feet alerts you both to approaching danger. Before Kate knocked him out, Mad Dog radioed his men and reported your presence in the observation block. Now a dozen of his toughest clansmen are racing along the corridor in answer to his call. "Let's get out of here, Carl," says Kate, and she starts to run towards the fire escape door. You follow her, pausing briefly to snatch the map that the two clan leaders were studying when you burst into the room. But we don't... Ah, damn. We always need to double tap our guys. Seriously. Okay. You race to catch up with Kate as she runs along the gantry that lies... Oh, we need to record the Mad Duck map. Okay, it doesn't take a space. However... You race to catch up with the cage runs along the gantry. A burst of machine pistol fire echoes in your wake as the first of Mad Dog's men enter the observation room. Bullets begin to scream past on either side of you, 20 yards along the iron gantry. You come under additional fire from clansmen in the stadium below. Add your stealth skill score to your current endurance point score. That's 7 minus 2 minus 2, so 3 plus 19, that's 22. If your score is 15 or more. Bullets are slamming into the gantry from all sides, but a combination of luck and speed saves you from being hit. At the far end is a covered staircase leading down to an internal thoroughfare, one of many that honeycomb the vast area below the stadium tiers. This wide corridor is empty at present, but the sound of running footsteps is growing louder with each passing second, and it will not be very long before the area is teeming with clansmen. Kate points to a service hatch, almost invisible against the dirt-encrusted wall, and suggests you hide there. You nod your agreement and help her to prise it open. On the other side of the hatch, you discover an electrical cable dock that is just large enough to accommodate both of you in some discomfort. You enter first, and then Kate squeezes in, closing the hatch behind her. It is now pitch black and very claustrophobic. Outside you can hear the angry screams and pounding feet of the clansmen as determinedly they try to track you down. The news of Mekong Mike's death has been broken to the Angelinos, and you have heard more than one of them vow that they will kill you and find you. The only escape route open to you now is to descend the rusty rungs of the iron service ladder on which you stand. 40 rungs later, you reach the bottom of the shaft. You can feel the walls of a tunnel leading away to your right, but it's too dark for you to see where it leads, what it contains. You possess a box of matches or a solar torch. You do. With a light to help you, it is easy to follow the thick power cables that line the walls of the service tunnel. For 15 minutes you walk without interruption until you reach a wider section where a ladder ascends to a circular steel hatch fitted flush to the tunnel's ceiling. Kate suggests that it could be worth investigating, and you lift up the heavy steel cover carefully and look out. Kate was right. The sight that greets you is the entrance gate to the Reagan Memorial Stadium. After waiting until there is little clan activity in the immediate area, you emerge from the shaft and make your way quickly into the ruins of the southern central sector of the San Angelo stronghold. For the next hour, you wend your way through the ruined city, crawling over the rubble and sprinting across every open area to minimize the risk of being seen. At length, you reach a place that overlooks the southern perimeter wall. There you stop to settle your nerves and catch your breath. In a hushed voice, you tell Kate the whereabouts of your roadster, just in case you do not make it out of San Angelo. "Don't talk like that, Carl," she says, gripping your hand as if her life depended on it. "It scares me." You tell her as much as you can about your planned rendezvous with the colony. How in 6 days from now you are to meet at Kent. There is so much you want to tell her, but the sudden arrival of 4 clansmen in an open-topped jeep puts an abrupt end to your observation. The vehicle screeches to a halt, and the 4 grim-faced men leap out, brandishing machine pistols. The driver grunts something and they fan out and start searching the ruins. Beyond the wall, there is 50 yards of clear ground separating the stronghold from the ruins of the southern suburbs. To reach your roadster, you will somehow have to cross this killing zone. 2 options. Climb the wall, make a run for it. Or stay hidden until they pass, and attempt to steal their jeep and drive across the cleared ground. Both sounds quite dangerous. Sounds less dangerous to steal a jeep though. I don't trust myself. As soon as the clansmen have disappeared from sight, you break cover and run, half crouched towards the jeep. Kate circles around to the other side and climbs into the passenger seat while you search for the ignition. To your horror, you discover that the ignition keys are missing. Add together your fieldcraft and perception score. Field 5, perception 4, total 9. If your score is 9 or more, there we go. Placing your hand under the dashboard, you pull down a handful of cables and isolate two, a red one and a black one, that are connected to the ignition lock. Quickly you rip these out and touch the exposed copper braids together. There is a bright blue spark and immediately the engine grows into life. After twisting the wires together, you throw the jeep into low gear and take off towards an open section of the perimeter wall. A wheel screen partially blocks this access point, which is guarded by two clansmen armed with automatic assault rifles. They're 15 yards from the screen, when suddenly they realize that you have no intention of stopping. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your driving skill. 3 plus 3, 6. It's between 5 and 7, so middle ground. The clansmen dive aside as you crash through the barrier and accelerate across the open ground towards the safety of the southern ruins. They recover quickly, and soon the staccato hammering of their assault rifles is echoing in your wake. With 20 yards left to go, 5 bullets rip their way through the jeep's rear tire, which explode with a tremendous bang. For a moment you lose control as the vehicle slews sideways, rises on two wheels, and then comes to a sudden halt. Quickly you abandon it and run for cover. Ahead you see the ruins of a fire station. You shout to Kate and point at the building. Immediately she acknowledges your message with a thumbs up. Then a string of bullets ricochets off the rubble-strewn ground around your feet, kicking up a cloud of dust that engulfs your whole body. Kate looks over her shoulder with fear stark in her eyes, but when you scream that you are okay and tell her to keep running at all costs, her expression relaxes and she obeys your command willingly. More shots ring out, but they fall short of their mark, and you reach the ruins of the fire station unscathed. Inside you discover that much of the roof has collapsed, although you can see that one vehicle, a paramedic truck, has survived the devastation virtually intact. We can search the vehicle or ignore it and press on with the escape, but maybe it contains useful things and we're starting to have space. The backpack, at least one. So with the armed clansmen less than 50 yards away, you dare spend only a minute searching the truck for useful items. In the brief time that you allow yourself, you discover the following: enough medical supply for 6 medikit units. So let's fool ourselves. 22, 25, 28 for 3. Let's go with 4 here. And another one in the med kit here, and the last one dropped to the ground. A fire axe plus 3 weapon. Oh, alright. Let's drop the knife. CB radio, we have one, a foil blanket, fire extinguisher. Let's not take the foil blanket, I think. It's good to pulse the heat though. Alright, let's drop stealth by 1 again. Foil blanket. If you decide, okay, leave the fire station. You follow Kate as she runs through the debris towards an exit at the rear. Watch as she races through the open doorway and collides head-on with a clansman who is hurrying into the building. The two rebound off each other and fall to the ground, stunned and bruised. Drunkenly, the clansman grabs Kate by the throat and fumbles for a pistol that is holstered beneath his shoulder. If you have a missile weapon, jab the barrel of your gun into the clansman's ribs and squeeze the trigger at point-blank range. The effect is awesome. He is torn away from Kate and spun around like a top. Swirling dances of death finally comes to a halt when he hits the wall of the alley in which you are standing. You help Kate to her feet and check that her windpipe has not been damaged by a clansman attack. Her throat is badly bruised, and although you can tell she's in great discomfort, stoically she ignores the pain and suggests that you both get out of here before the dead man's confederates turn up. After stooping to snatch his pistol, she follows closely in your wake as you hurry south towards the ruins of the Sears Mega Market. I doubt he has been paid for any ads for Sears. Sears wants to sponsor this stream, I'll be glad too, since it seems to be a recurrent theme. News of your escape into the southern ruins of San Angelo is relayed to Mad Dog Michigan that we didn't double tap. Already has told the Angelinos that you have assassinated their leader, and in the prevailing emergency he has appointed himself their new commander, and we gave him more bikers. Seriously. He orders the Angelinos to saturate the southern sector and to kill both of you on sight. Manage to reach the mega market without further clan encounters, and are relieved to find that your roadster has remained undisturbed since you left it this morning. It takes a few frustrating minutes to start the engine, but as soon as it is running smoothly, you leave San Angelo as fast as you can, heading south from the remains of Highway 277. Yeah, we're taking the road to Sonora. While you're driving, you must take a drink or lose 3 endurance points. Expectantly, you keep an eye on your rear view mirror as you power your roadster along the rock-strewn asphalt of Highway 277. You're convinced that the Angelinos will soon be on your tail, yet you have covered 15 miles and still there is nothing to indicate that you are being pursued. You are beginning to relax when Kate points to a small town in the distance. It is built around a bridge that crosses a stream of shallow black water that was once known as the South Concho River. Here, I guess. Near the middle of this town, on the highway approach to the bridge, is a rising cloud of dust. If you possess binoculars or a telescope, quickly you stop the car and peer at the little town of Cristoval. Can you see what's kicking up that dust? Asked Kate. Looks like a pack of wild coyote fighting among themselves, you reply as you focus on the action taking place at the center of the town. Hey, Carl, she replies, tugging at your sleeve. That ain't the dust I'm talking about. Lowering your magnifying device, you turn to see her pointing back along the highway at another dust cloud, which is fast approaching. You do not need a magnifying device to be able to see that it is being kicked up by a pack of bikers who have come racing out of San Angelo. I think it's time we were moving on, says Kate uneasily. I think you're right, you reply as hurriedly you reach for the ignition switch. With your foot holding the gas pedal flat to the floor, you roar towards Cristoval with a score of angry Angelinos hot on your heels. On entering the town, you see that the coyote on the road ahead are fighting each other in 2 separate packs. Each pack is being urged on by men who are conducting some sort of wager on the outcome of the fight. So engrossed are they in the dogfight that they seem oblivious of the fact that you are speeding straight towards them. It is not until you sound your horn and flash your headlamps that the men and dogs begin to scatter, but by then it is too late for some of them. The car shudders as you plow into a dozen of the fighting dogs, sending them spinning into the air. One tumbles over the windshield and lands between you and Kate. Maddened by the pain of its wounds, it lunges at you and closes its fangs around your right forearm. Desperately, Kate tries to pummel it unconscious with the butt of her pistol as you fight to maintain control of the speeding car. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your driving skill score. 6 plus 3 for driving, 9. If it's between 9 and 12, so middle of the road again. Kate manages to pull the snapping dog from your arm and dispatch it swiftly with a pistol shot to the head. Its fangs have penetrated the leather sleeve of your jacket and gouge your arm. Lose 2 endurance points. But you're relieved to see that there are no signs that the animal was rabid. Quickly you regain full control of the roadster and steer towards the Cristobal Bridge. Once you are safely across the bridge, you keep your foot on the gas pedal until the town of Cristobal disappears from your rearview mirror. Ahead, the highway crosses an especially bleak and barren landscape, seemingly devoid of even the hardiest flora and fauna. It looks more like a moonscape than a landscape, and were it not for the setting sun and the welcome cool of dusk, you could easily believe that you had been transferred to the surface of another world. It is almost dark when the outline of a town appears on the horizon, its shattered buildings thrown into relief by the Asian moonlight. A battered sign reflects the glare of your headlamps and announces your approach to the town of El Dorado. Dorado over here. El Dorado, the imaginary land of riches, you say sardonically, as you scan the tumble-down buildings of this derelict extant town. Somehow, I just don't reckon we'll find any riches here. I guess you're right, says Kate, but we might find us somewhere to rest up a while. I sure could use a few hours' sleep. The dangers you have encountered during the day have kept you mentally and physically alert, but now that the immediate threat has passed, the fatigue of your ordeal catches up with you all at once. Your need to rest makes the thought of stopping here almost irresistible. But no matter how tired you feel, you cannot ignore the fact that you are being hunted by the Angelinos. Yeah, I think we really should just go ahead. At this rate, we'll reach Interstate 10 in an hour, you say, but Kate does not reply. Exhaustion has got the better of her, and she has drifted off into a deep sleep. Without our conversation to stimulate you, fatigue eats away at your concentration, and gradually you lose interest in the road ahead. You fall asleep at the wheel, and reawaken only when the roadster veers off the highway and crashes into a rocky spur. Oh damn. It's a life lesson here. Pick a number from the random number table. 7, if the number you have picked is 07. The crash brings the car to an abrupt halt, and you are brought back to full consciousness when your chest is slammed by the hub of your steering wheel. Lose 2 endurance points. Kate is saved from serious injury by her seatbelt harness. which she had fastened before she fell asleep. The bone-breaking jolt of the crash has awoken her, and disorientated and blurry-eyed, she asks why you have stopped. We ran out of road, you say, sheepishly, as you stagger out of the driving seat and go to inspect the damage. Your heart sinks when you discover that the front chassis, the frame on which the wheels and engine are mounted, is badly bent out of shape. To repair this damage, you will need to cut and re-weld the buckled frame. You possess a welding torch and oxyacetylene. We don't. The only hope you have of repairing your crippled roadster is to return to El Dorado and search all the derelict garages and service stations for some wielding equipment. Tired and dejected, you abandon the car and begin the long walk back to town. You have covered less than a mile, when to your dismay you see a line of motorcycle headlights approaching. Add your current endurance point score to your perception skill score. That's 29. Your score is 25 or more. You tell Kate to follow you as you dive for cover among the rocks that border this section of the highway. Your speedy reaction saves you from being seen by the pack of Angelinos as they race along the highway, heading south. You stay hidden until our lights have disappeared, and then you resume your long walk back to El Dorado. 3 hours later, you reach the town and begin a systematic search of all the buildings. In the ruins of a repair shop, you discover what you need: a welding torch and a cylinder of oxyacetylene. You are dragging these items out of the building, when suddenly, from the shadow of a doorway, a gruff voice barks an order. Stay where you are and put your hands up. Carefully, you drop the welding equipment and obey the command. Then a swarthy Angelino steps out of the shadows with a pistol in his hand. He sniggers with delight, unable to hide his glee at having captured you both single-handedly, and reaches into his pocket with his free hand. He removes a pair of handcuffs and tosses them casually at Kate's feet before ordering her to put them on your wrists. Kate stoops to pick up the handcuffs, but the instant her hand closes on them, she hurls them back at the grinning Angelino, hitting him squarely in the face. Immediately, you take your cue and spring forward, grabbing his gun before he has a chance to recover his composure. You wrestle it from his grasp, but already is reaching for a knife, which he carries concealed in his boot. He unsheaths it and lashes out, forcing you to dive aside to avoid its razor-sharp tip. Yellow Cab, close combat skill of 15. So it's a +3 and +3 for the meat cleaver or fire axe. +6 combat ratio. Yes, 26 endurance points, just like making Mike. Owing to the help you receive from Kate in overcoming the enemy, you may add 2 points to your close combat skills. Plus with +8 fight. The same as a +7. The first fight of the night. First round against the Yellow Cab, it's a 6. So 1 damage against 6. 7. No damage against 9. 0. No damage against 16. He's dead. That was quick. We lost 1 endurance point in the fight. A search of the dead Angelino's body reveals the following items: pistol, 8 rounds of 9mm. Can take 2 of them. Enough antibiotics for 1 medikit unit. Let's use it right away. And use another one from ours. Full. Water canteen. Can pull ours again. Food for 1 meal. A knife and goggles. Not sure about the goggles. And not sure about the meal either. I think we're good with 2 meals. Parked beside the entrance of the store from where the Angelino first appeared, you discover his motorcycle. You use it to transport Kate and the wielding equipment back to your roadster and immediately set to work on repairing the damage. It takes all night for you to dismantle, cut, realign, and weld the damaged chassis. It is a difficult task, made even more so by fatigue, but the lessons you learned when you helped Cotter to build this roadster over 6 months ago proved invaluable. Work continuously, and it is not until an hour after dawn that the repairs are finally completed. In the clear light of early morning, you can see for miles across the rocky plain that surrounds the highway south of El Dorado. It appears empty, although you remain on the alert every second of your drive to Sonora, the next town marked on your map. For it is in this direction that the Angelinos were heading when they passed you last night. You are less than a mile from the ruins of Sonora when you are greeted by the welcome sight of Interstate 10. Stretching east to west across your path, this is the freeway you hope will take you all the way to your rendezvous with the colony at Kent, and then on through the mountains to El Paso. You join the freeway and enjoy the feel of a firmer, clearer road surface beneath your wheels as you begin the long drive west. Still, you can see no sign of the Angelinos, and Kate voices her hope that they have decided to search Sonora, thinking you may have hidden there last night. You want to agree with her, but suddenly in the distance you see something that proves her wrong. Beneath a road bridge, a line of Angelinos is strung out across the freeway, each one sitting astride his bike with a rifle or machine pistol resting across the handlebars. They are the clansmen whom you saw last night. Having realized that they must have passed you in the dark, they are waiting patiently for you to show up. To your right, you see an exit ramp that ascends to the bridge itself, and as the clansmen open fire, you steer your car towards it to avoid the withering hail of bullets. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your driving skill score and perception. So that's 8 plus 3 plus 4, 15. Total score is 10 or more. With tires screeching, you turn onto the bridge and gun your car across it at top speed. Beyond the span, you find a secondary road that has barely survived the post-disaster years. A sign flashes past, identifying it as Road 1989. But you fail to see this number as you fight to avoid the boulders that lie strewn in your path. Kate has drawn her pistol and is firing over her shoulder at a biker who is closing fast. A pair of belt-fed machine guns are mounted atop the headlamp of this motorcycle, and he fires them in devastating bursts whenever the roadster fills his sights. So concerned is the fire that you are both forced to cower in your armor-backed seat to avoid being hit. And another sign appears on the road ahead, pointing to a winding dirt track that leads away to the left. It reads, "The Caverns of Sonora." You are desperate to avoid a machine-gunning biker and so decide to take the track. At least its winding course will give him less opportunity to riddle the trunk with bullets. Looks like driving skill galore upcoming. The track leads to a cluster of log cabins and abode huts that look as if they have only recently been constructed. Nearby, erected around the entrance to a cave, you see a palisade, and standing at the gate in this wall of logs, you notice a large group of men, women, and children. They are dressed in animal skins, and their faces and hair are dyed with bright colors. At your approach, they scurry inside the gate and take cover behind their log wall. The instant you bring your roadster to a halt, you smell the strong, oily aroma of gasoline. With trepidation, you inspect the bullet-riddled trunk and discover to your horror that gasoline is gushing from the spare fuel containers. They are so badly old that an attempt at repairing them will be futile. The roar of your pursuer's motorcycle is growing louder, and Kate urges you to abandon the car and take over with the others behind the wall of logs. You nod your agreement and run towards the gate, but as you get nearer, a man steps forward to block your access. He's holding a loaded bow. A flint-tipped arrow is drawn taut to his lips, and he's pointing it at your chest. Pick a number from the random number table. 3. Number 03. The man stares at you with fear in his eyes. He's on the brink of releasing the bowstring when your pursuer comes roaring up the track, closely followed by the other Angelino scouts. You scream a warning to Kate and throw yourself down as a double burst of machine guns fires strafes the palisade. The bullets pass over your head and hit the archer in the chest, dropping him in a tangled heap on the threshold of the gateway. You spring to your feet and rush forward to help Kate drag his body away so that the gate can be closed. The other members of the settlement come to your aid, and once the gate is secure, they point to the cave mouth and urge you to enter. You do not want to abandon your roadster to the Angelinos, but to stay here and attempt to fight will be suicidal. Reluctantly, you leave the gate and follow them into the cave. Kate grips your hand tightly as you descend with a group of the cave people into the depth of the Sonora Caverns. An astounding speleological feast greets your eyes as you follow them through a series of monumental caves that have been eroded over millions of years by subterranean rivers and streams. The group stops frequently at specially prepared defensive heights, which are virtually impossible to see. One or two of their number, armed with rocks, spears, and slings, occupy each of these positions. At once you see that it is their intention to lure the clansmen into the caverns and fight them here, where despite their lack of firearms, the odds are in their favor. Soon the sound of gunfire begins to penetrate the caverns, announcing the arrival of the clansmen. You stop with Kate and crouch behind a clump of stalagmites, while the 3 remaining cave people arm themselves with rocks and take up a position on a ledge directly above a narrow defile. For several minutes the sound of gunfire and the screams of the wounded fill the caves with clamoring echoes. Then 2 of the Angelinos appear at the entrance to the defile and come running towards you. The cave people hurl their rocks and bring an Angelino crashing to the ground with a broken skull. But his partner avenges his death by sweeping them from the ledge with one long burst of automatic fire. You have a missile weapon and wish to use it. Gunfire stops and you hear the unmistakable sound of the Angelino reloading his machine pistol. Finally, it draws back its firing bolt and starts walking slowly towards your position. You can use a pistol, machine pistol, or a rifle. Sounds more like a rifle situation here. Force yourself to breathe slowly in an attempt to calm your racing heart. The clansman's footsteps seem unbearably loud as you wait for the right moment to launch your ambush. With sweating palms, you lift your rifle and then, as it comes to a halt, you rise up from your hiding place, aim and fire. Pick a random number on the random number table. Add it to your shooting score. 5 plus 4, 9, if your total score is 8 or more. The clansman is no more than 10 feet away when you spring up from your hiding place and bring your barrel to bear. Your gunfire catches him in the side and spins him backwards to the slippery floor. For a moment he shudders, and it falls still as his last breath escapes from between his blood-flecked lips. So one less shot of rifle. Kate moves forward to check that he is dead and to search his body. She keeps what she needs: machine pistol, a quantity of ammunition, and his water canteen, and offers the rest of his possessions to you. Enough food for 1 meal. Enough sulfonamides for 1 medikit unit. Okay, let's fill that. A compass, flick knife, and binoculars. We're on foot here. We need a compass. Not sure. Nah. When you emerge from the caverns, you are astounded to see that the Angelinos have been completely overwhelmed by this colony of cave dwellers. The few clansmen who have survived the ambush have been trussed up like turkeys and are being guarded by a circle of spear-wielding women. The rest of the colony is so busy stripping and searching the bodies of those they have killed that they fail to notice you and Kate as you leave the entrance quietly and make your way back to the roadster. You admire their bravery, but there is something about these people, something about their appearance and their silence that unsettles you. You inspect the damage to the trunk. Your fears are confirmed. You no longer have sufficient fuel to reach Kent. Siphon the tanks of the clansmen's bikes and save what you can from the bottom of the 2 perforated fuel canisters. But you estimate that in total you have only enough to take you 120 miles. As you are leaving, you notice that the cave people are preparing a funeral pyre for those who were killed in the fighting. It strikes you as a very sensible and civilized way to dispose of the dead, and makes you think that perhaps your suspicions about these people were groundless after all. Your illusions about the cave people are soon shattered, however, when Kate points out that they are not burning the dead at all. They are cooking them. It is midday when you rejoin Interstate 10 to continue your drive west. The sun is at its height, and it feels as if it has pushed the temperature to 5 degrees above unbearable. To save fuel, you try to keep your speed below 25 miles per hour, even though the lack of cooling breeze drives you to distraction. You were hoping to be able to scavenge some fuel in Ozona, the first town through which you were due to pass. But when you arrive there, you find that it has been totally destroyed. It's not on the map. A gently sloping mound of dust and rubble is all that remains of this town. You are forced to continue without respite, and throughout the long, odd drive, the experience of Ozona is repeated many times before you reach Bakersfield in the early evening. During your drive, you must take 3 drinks. Oh, 3? Damn. We'll lose 3 endurance points. You're both tired and suffering from mild heat exhaustion, but after having at least reached a town that is still standing, you agree that you must search for fuel and water before it gets dark. As the town is divided in 2 by the freeway, you decide to split up and search one half. You wish to search the north side or the south side. So south is left from our perspective, so let's go south. At the far end of a block of derelict stores is a blue star-shaped sign that marks the site of a Lone Star gas station. You hurry along the dusty street, hopeful of finding some fuel, but you are met with disappointment. All the security caps have been sawn off the gasoline storage tanks, and not a drop of their precious contents remains. The gas station itself has been ransacked and nothing of value remains, but at the rear of the building you discover something that stirs your curiosity. It is a large storage facility with heavy double doors, which are chain and padlock. If you possess a bolt cutters, we don't. Walk around the building and notice that there is no windows or other means of access. Nothing hints at what is stored inside, and the more you consider it, the more intrigued you become. If you possess a flexible saw and wish to use it to try to cut through the padlock, yeah, go flexible saw. You draw the thin saw cord through the closed ass of the padlock and work it back and forth. You have made barely a dozen strokes when the metal saw cord snaps with a loud ping. Erase this item from your action chart. Damn. Bye, flexible saw. Last 1 1/2 book, maybe? 1 2/3. If you possess an HE grenade, like kind of too much. But it's a demolition grenade that should be used for that actually. You take the grenade from your backpack and tie it to the padlock with strips of cloth torn from an oily rag that you find on the ground nearby. Then you set the timer for 10 seconds, pull the pin, and take cover inside a gas station. Precisely 10 seconds later, the grenade explodes with a deafening bang. Pick a number on the random number table. 6, so if it's 6 to 9, move the grenade. As the noise of the explosion fades and the smoke thins, you approach the door to discover that the padlock no longer exists. Firmly, you push open the shrapnel-pitted door and enter the hangar-like interior. Inside, you find an armored truck, one of many that were once used by banks to transport cash and bullion around Texas. This one was hijacked shortly before the day and was brought here, where its cargo was to have been shared out by the robbers. However, they never had a chance to divide and spend their loot, and the vehicle still contains over $30 million in cash, a sum now completely worthless. The truck's fuel tank is a quarter full, but is diesel oil and cannot be used in your roadster. Cursing your luck, you search the trunk and the building for anything that may be of practical use, and you discover the following items. A toolkit, air pump, distilled water for 3 drinks. That's good. Engine oil and a monkey wrench. Okay, toolkit. Toolkit sounds better than the rest. And air pump, engine oil, monkey wrench. The monkey wrench and the toolkit seems to be redundant. Not sure about the air pump. Well, you get a pierced tire. We don't have anything to repair it anyway. Engine oil might be useful. I've never seen us change our engine oil since book 1, so. Dusk is beginning to give way to darkness, and you are anxious to return to the roadster before the evening light fades completely. Having satisfied yourself that you have overlooked nothing of value, you leave the building and return to your car. You return to find Kate sitting on the hood of the roadster, sifting through a box of items she has found. She, too, has been unable to find any fuel, but she has salvaged enough food for a decent evening meal. "I even found some wine from your home state," she says proudly, holding out a bottle of Californian dry white for your inspection. It's great, you reply with a smile. Now all we need is a corkscrew. As night draws in and the temperature falls, a strong wind arises that whips along the freeway, howling like an angry ghost. You sense that it is the prelude to a storm, and you suggest to Kate that you look for somewhere to shelter. An old brick-built library standing close by seems like a good bet. The walls are strong and it still has a roof, which is more than can be said for over 90% of the Bakersfield buildings. You decide to spend the night in the library's main hall. After clearing a space near the center, you build a small campfire, using a few of the many thousands of books that line the walls. And once it is ablaze, you help Kate to prepare the food she has found. Outside, the weather has grown steadily worse. Thunder rolls across the surrounding plains, and the jagged flashes of forked lightning illuminate the rolling clouds of dust with increasing regularity. I don't like it. It looks real bad, you say, as you stare anxiously out of the window at the raging storm. It ain't all bad, replies Kate. At least we don't have to worry about Mad Dog's boys showing up out of the blue. The food and wine taste delicious. Restore 300 points. But we're full. And after eating your fill, you both settle down to sleep in front of the glowing embers of the campfire. It seems as though you have only just closed your eyes when you are stirred to consciousness by a loud crackling sound and the acrid smell of smoke. Horror fills your senses when you open your eyes to see yourself surrounded by a blazing wall of yellow flame. Lightning struck the library roof while you were asleep, starting a fire that has been fueled by the shelves of dusty dry books, and which has now spread to the main hall where it threatens to consume you both. Quickly you wake Kate, and together you fight your way towards the main door. You're within 10 feet of the exit when a burning bookcase falls across your path. 2 options. Damn, the fire extinguisher. I think... Yeah, the fire extinguisher proposed like 3 or 4 times at the beginning of book 1. And it was really useless. But yeah, the lightning had struck the roof and started a fire, so we need a fire extinguisher. So we don't have this item. Yeah, okay. The heat and flames force you back from the entrance, and as you reach the center of the hall, you look around desperately for another way out. But every exit is now ablaze. Using a heavy rug from the floor, you cover Kate's head and tell her to make a dash for the main door. Bravely, she obeys your command without hesitation, and she succeeds in escaping through the tunnel of flame and out into the street beyond. Heartened by her success, you raise your jacket over your head, take a deep breath, and sprint after her. Pick a random number on the random number table and add it to your stealth score. So that's 6 plus 7, 13, minus 3, 10, minus 2, 8. Your total score is 8 or more. Alright. Your speed and sure-footedness save you from the merciless flames. Your jacket is blackened with soot, and the legs of your jeans are smoldering, but you escape from the blazing library without sustaining any injury. Kate catches you as you emerge from the library and pulls you to a safe distance away. Moments later, the roof of the library collapses with a loud splintering crack, and clouds of sparks whirl into the night, carried upward by the strong gusting wind. Silently, you look at Kate's smoke-blackened face, and then at the blazing library, and you realize just how lucky you both are to have got out of that inferno alive. By the time you recover fully from your ordeal and return to your roadster, the storm has blown itself out. The eastern sky is lightening as dawn approaches, and you decide to leave Bakersfield now, before the sun rises and the temperature becomes unbearable. Beyond the town, the freeway climbs steadily towards the distant line of mountains that shimmer in the horizon. You keep your speed as low as possible and cover 40 miles with your fuel gauge nudging the 0 mark. Then the silhouette of Fort Stockton appears on the road ahead and your hopes of finding some gas are rekindled. The first thing you see upon entering the town is a gas station. Like everything else, the station appears deserted, but there's something about this building that makes your skin prickle with presentiment. A battered Chevrolet pickup is parked with its hood raised at one of the station's 4 gasoline pumps. It looks far cleaner than any of the other auto wrecks that lie scattered around the town, and your suspicions are further aroused when you notice a large black pool of oil on the ground beneath the engine compartment. You stop your roadster alongside and step out to investigate. "Hey, this oil's still wet," you say to Kate as you dab your index finger in the pool. You're wiping it clean on the edge of your jeans when you hear an unexpected reply. "Drop your weapons, or I'll drop you." It is a man's voice, and it is coming from inside a derelict pay booth. You can obey the command or dive for cover. With the accent of the guy that is presented here in the text, it sounds like a different type of person, like a normal person instead of a biker. I think it's the good guy of the book that we need to take with us, and he'll be useful in the following books. Reluctantly, you let your gun slip to the ground as the muzzle of a rifle emerges from the darkened doorway. "You too, honey," says the disembodied voice, and Kate obeys, tossing your machine pistol out of the car so that it lands deliberately near your feet. "Don't even think about it," says another voice away to your right. From behind a ragged auto steps a tall, muscular man, dressed in green army fatigues. His blonde hair is cropped close to his head and his eyes are hidden behind a pair of dark sunglasses. Pistol in hand, he walks slowly towards you and then stops at the entrance to the pay booth. 2 more men in uniform emerge from the doorway, a rifleman and one other who is armed with a sawn-off shotgun. "They don't look like clan punks, Sarge," says the rifleman. "We're not," interrupts Kate. "We're running from the clans." Bemused, the blonde-haired man scratches his chin and turns to say something quietly to his 2 companions. It is then that you notice the faded sergeant stripes and the circular globe of the world emblem that adorn his sleeve. Instantly you recognize the latter. It is the emblem of the World Defense League. At length, he turns to face you once more and says in a friendlier tone, "I think you two had better tell us your story." You tell the soldiers who you are and how you came to be here in Fort Stockton. We'll update the map. About midway or so. At first, they listen to your fantastic account with cool skepticism. They cross-examine you both in an attempt to find a flaw in your story, but when they are unable to find any, their attitude begins to change. By the time they have finished their interrogation, you have managed to win their respect and admiration. Once they are convinced that you are a genuine colonist, they recount their own tale. They are WDF Marines who, before the day, were stationed at an underground facility in Brownsville, Texas. 12 of their units survived the post-Holocaust years, but soon after their return to the surface, they were the victims of a clan attack. They were the only survivors of the attack and were forced to flee Brownsville on foot. Eventually, they managed to find a vehicle that worked, the pickup truck, and had got this far when the fuel ran out and the engine broke down. They're trying to reach their command headquarters at Fort Bliss, located just north of El Paso, where they hope to rejoin remnants of their unit. They arrived in Fort Stockton 3 days ago and have been prevented from continuing their journey on foot by their blistering day temperature. and the fierce night storms that have swept down from the Barilla Mountains. They have set up camp in the ruins of a nearby motel, and they invite you there to share their food and drink, and to formulate a plan to find some fuel for your roadster. Their provisions are basic, but you receive them gracefully. Store 2 endurance points. Still full. After your meal, you try to think where you might find some gasoline. Sergeant Haskell and his men, Marines Gunter and Knott, they've searched every square inch of Fort Stockton and know that there is none to be had here. What we need is an old road map, says Haskell. One that will show us where the freeway rest stops and gas stations in this area were located. I've got a map, you volunteer, and take from your jacket the map that you snatched from Mad Dog Michigan's table at the stadium in San Angelo. Hey, where did you get this? Says Haskell, as he examines the notes and other markings that have been made on the map of the United States. You tell him its origins, and he scrutinizes it at length. Finally he comments, what you've got here is a blueprint of a major AVOC operation to take over the country. This is one odd piece of property. It shows clan strengths, supply areas, AVOC strongholds, controlled cities, everything. Even pockets of WDL resistance on the eastern seaboard. We've gotta get this to El Paso, if there's anything left of WDL headquarters. Then they must be warned about what is happening in the east. Okay, you reply uneasily. But what about fuel? My roadster has barely enough to make it another 20 miles. All we need is enough gas to get as far as Kent in time for the rendezvous with the colony. Then we can refuel from the tanker, and you can catch a ride with us all the way to Fort Bliss. There's a rest stop here, replies Haskell, pointing to the map at a place on Interstate 10 that is halfway between Fort Stockton and a town called Brogedo. There's no knowing if there's still any gas in its storage tanks, but it's our only hope. Looks like it's a 25-mile drive. Do you think you can make it? Can try, you reply. Like you say, it's our only hope. You decide to leave Fort Stockton at dawn the following morning, but the weather deteriorates, putting a swift end to your plans. For 2 days and nights, the town is hit by lightning storms and tornadoes, forcing you to remain in the basement of the motel. It is not until the morning of the 7th day of your mission, 1 day before your planned rendezvous with the convoy, that the tornadoes blow themselves out and you are able to leave the town in safety. With Kate beside you, and the 3 Marines clinging to the hood and trunk of your roadster, you crawl the 23 miles from Fort Stockton to the Balmorea rest stop that Haskell found on your map. It is located at the entrance to a pass through the Barilla Mountains, and at first glance, it appears to have suffered extensive damage in the recent storms. You bring the roadster to a halt with your fuel tank virtually empty, and it is with great trepidation that you and Sergeant Haskell go to inspect the fuel storage tanks, while Kate and the others watch the road. Of the 8 underground fuel tanks located beneath the gas station area, only 1 looks promising. Of the others, 6 are empty, and 1 is contaminated with diesel oil. A coded security valve locks the access pipe to the tank, and after a brief examination, you realize that the code must be cracked if you are to get at the contents. Any attempt to break off or cut through the valve will be sure to cause a spark that will blow the tank, and whoever was tampering with it, sky high. You're studying the valve when you hear Marine Gunter shout a warning. Clansman on the freeway! Let's take a 2-minute break before the Clansman on the freeway. Alright, I'm back. So, Klansmen on the freeway. 6 black-clad bikers are riding along Interstate 10 towards the rest atop. Affixed to the rear of their saddles are long whiplash aerials, which are doubled with black pennants that bear a lion's head symbol. You stare at these black flags and a tingle runs down your spine. It is the emblem of the Detroit Lions clan. Bikers catch sight of your roadster and bring their machines to a halt 100 yards from the rest stop. And all 6 spread out, and using the rocks and boulders that litter the landscape, they make their way forward slowly. Sergeant Haskell orders Gonder and Knott, take cover and open fire at the advancing Klansmen. They must not be allowed to capture or destroy the fuel tank. From behind an old gas pump, you watch as 2 of the Lions start to edge their way around the service area. They are trying to circle around the rest stop and launch an attack from the rear. 2 options. Well, actually, the first options is using a missile weapon or not using one. Well, I don't see why we won't. We have plenty of ammo. You abandon your cover and shadow the 2 Klansmen as they circle around to the rear. An old tire rack propped against the side of a derelict car wash offers you a good defensive position, and quickly you scurry towards it. You reach the rack in time to see the Lions halt. For a moment they duck out of sight, but soon they reappear and come running, half crouched with guns at the ready, towards your newfound hiding place. So we can use pistol, machine pistol, or rifle. They are 2 of them. Would be, as usual, a good idea to use the machine pistol actually, and do a spread of burst fire. Quickly, you check your magazine and cock the firing bolt as the first Klansman scurries between the rocks that litter the edge of the service area. It is less than 25 yards away when you squeeze off your first burst of fire and bring him crashing to the ground. So that's 6 less bullets here. His partner hesitates and then abandons his stealthy approach and comes running towards you, screaming hysterically, his own machine pistol blazing furiously at his hip. You have sufficient ammunition and wish to fire again. He's alone. I think we should take this guy head to head. You crouch behind a rack and fumble for a close combat weapon as the Klansman bullets pepper your position. Then you see Kate running towards you with a machine pistol in her hands. She opens fire at the Klansman, but he returns fire, and one of his bullets smashes the barrel of Kate's gun, rendering it useless. In the next instant, he leaps onto the rack, but before he brings his weapon to bear, you lash out and smash his knee with the edge of your hand. He drops his gun and falls forward, landing on top of you with a jolt that leaves you breathless. Kalashnikov. Close combat skill 16. That's +2. And 3 for the melee weapon, so a +5 fight. Yes. 25 endurance points. Cannot evade combat and must fight a Klansman to the death. Alright. Not the best fight so far, but 0. So, no damage against 12. A 7. No damage against 8. 4. It's 2 damage against 5, and he's dead. Only lost 2 endurance points, that's good. You step away from the clansman's body and run to where Kate is standing. She looks a little shell-shocked, but is otherwise unarmed. And together, you return to the front of the service area in time to see the sole surviving Detroit Lion making a speedy escape back along the freeway. Sergeant Haskell and his men cheer his retreat, and then conduct a search of those who did not get away. Although few personal possessions are found, they do recover some weapons and ammunition, and you are offered a choice of the following. Machine pistol, 12 rounds of 9mm, so we're going to go full again. We have 8 space, so I can go to... Yeah, I can go to 30, actually. Yep. Two rounds of 7.62, we have enough. 5 rounds of 12 gauge, useless, and a knife, we don't need. While the sergeant and his men dispose of the bodies, you return to the gasoline storage tank and set to work on cracking its security code. Alright, the Puzzle of Fortis book. You examine the 3 dials that are set into the top of the security valve. Each is divided into 3 segments, and each segment displays a number. One of the segments on the 3rd dial has numbers which can be altered by hand. Carefully, you consider the numbers and soon realize that they are part of a coded combination lock. By turning the adjustable numbers on the 3rd dial to the correct total, you will release the lock and open the valve. Consider the following numbers carefully when you think you know what the missing number is. Turn to the entry which bears the same number as your answer. So the numbers that we have on the 1st dial is on top 32. Then 48 on the left and 26 on the right. Second dial has 13 on top, 16 on the left, and 24 on the right. The last one is 96 on top and 64 on the right. And we need to find the number to the left. So the 1st dial has a 16 difference and a 6 difference between the numbers. The other one has a 3 and 11. The last one is 96 and 64. Not a subtraction, can be divided or multiplied, not added together. 3, 11, 14, 30. There's 8 between those. 3 there, 11 there. 3, 11, 8. Alright, so 24 minus 13 is 11. 16 minus 13 is 3. 11 minus 3 is 8. 24 minus 16 is 8. So let's try the theory on the other one. 26 minus 32 minus 6. Unless I can go both ways, it will be 6. 48 minus 32 is 16. 16 minus 6, 10. Doesn't work. So the order might be important. 26 minus 32 is minus 6. 48 minus 32, 16. 16 the other way around. 26. No, that's not. 24 minus 13 is 11. 11 minus the 3 here. 8 between the 2. Okay. So we need to have minus 22. It goes on the same way. We have -6 on one side. It can't. Unless the order is different. 7, 3, 8. Maybe we go from, yeah, might be that. 16, 6, and 12. That's the problem. 16, 6, and 12. And the reverse is -22, -6, -16. Alright. So we have 26 minus 32, that's -16. 32 minus 48 is -16, that's -22. And my 26 minus 48 is -22. So if it goes backwards like the first dial, it will be 64 minus 96, which is -32. But we don't have the turn number. The turn number for both 6, 16, 22. Don't have the second number though. There's a difference between each dial. Three times is 48. No indication for there. -22 plus 8 minus 32 here. Because it could be pretty much any number unless we try them all. -26 to 32 is -6, -16, which is -22. 11, 3. Which is 8. I have -32. Whatever the number is needs to give 64 or 96, whatever both results give. For example, if it goes to 33, which is impossible, let's say 34 instead, it means that the number here is 98, and it works. Yeah, is it 98? The first number of the sequence that I tried would be that. Then but I think 98 will work. Minus 32, minus 2, and minus 34 here. Minus 6, minus 16. Minus 22, so minus 32, minus 2, minus 34, that's 98. 98 will work with that logic. Next one will be 99, it's minus 35, so 3 there, it will work as well. So with that logic, it could be any number 98 upwards. There must be a relation between the wheels from both sides. Three times that one, 3 times that one. There's no 3 times here. If there's a relation between all 3 though, the first one gave minus 22, then we have 8, so it gives minus 14. Minus 14 at the end will be 50. Minus 32 and 50 doesn't work. But it could be 50 though. Three dime, 4 dime. Can be that too. 3 dime, 4 dime, 2 dime. That's 96 again though. It's not 4 dime. Yeah, that one is 4 dime. The other way around is 24 minus 13, that's plus 11. Minus 3, 8. Yeah, that's what we did before, so 3 minus 11, that's minus 8. We go the other way around. But it will only reverse the numbers, so instead of minus 32, it's plus 32. So that means 30 going down. Nope. Yeah, I'm stuck on a puzzle. There's an 8 here, 16 there, 32 there. Didn't really help at all. 48, 32, that's 16. And 32 and 26, that's 6. It's 22 between them. 3, 11, 8. In the first one, they add themselves up. 6, 16, 22. So 32, something, something. Needs to be over 96 with that logic though. Yeah, I really don't see how to crack this one quickly. Sure, we're quite close there. That's 16, 6, 22. And 3, 8, 3, 11, 8. Unknown, 32, unknown. Unless we add stuff together, that's 40. 24 is that's 40. 50, 14 is missing. 45. 51 is missing. Or then the way stuff is added together. 16, 6, 22. We need to add 8 to 3 somehow. So 8, 3, 11. Right, left, up. And the first one is left, up, right. Left, up, right. Right, left, up. So the other one will be top, right, left. 96 minus 64 is 32. And then (64) minus whatever gives a number, and that whatever number must be added to 32, and it gives 96 at the end. We have 32 plus, right, yeah, 32 plus something equal something that we got from the 32. So if it's 2, for example, that gives 34. but 96 and 34 doesn't work, so they need to reach each other midway. That's midway 64. Yeah, 64 in between. But it can be another 32. Could it be? Both of them give 64 and it works in all the ways. 96 minus 64 is 32. 32 plus 32 gives 64, which is what we need to track. 15. Yeah, we need to subtract 64 minus 32, which gives 32. 32 plus 32 is 64, which is what is in between the 96. Not that, some wrong here. The first one, 16. 6 and 22, we need to add them together, so 48 minus 32 is 16. 32 minus 26 is 6. 6 plus 16 is 22, so we get back to 48. The other way around is 24 minus 16, that's 8. 16 minus 13 is 3. 8 plus 3, that's 11. Go the other back around, 13 plus 11 is 24. So 96 minus 64 is 32. Then whatever number minus 96 gives whatever. And whatever plus 32 gives the number there. That needs to be greater than 96 actually. Or smaller because, yeah. 96 minus 64 gives 32. And 64 minus whatever gives another number. That number added to 32 gives 96, which is 64 actually. But 64 cannot be minus that other one. I'm running around in circles there. (48 minus 32 equals 16. 32 minus 26 equals 6. Which gives 22. Then 24 minus 16 equals 8. 16 minus 13 equals 3, which gives 11. And 22 plus 26 gives 48, and 11 plus 13 gives 24. So with that, 96 minus 64 gives 32. And we have 64 minus whatever gives whatever, which means 62 or less. Then 34 plus 62 or less gives 94 or less. And 94 or less plus x gives 96. Oh, I'm sure the x should be the same with the numbers we have here. Needs to be under 64. I see only 32 here. 32. 4 minus 32 is 32. 32 plus 32. 64. Yeah, that doesn't work. Unless that number should be the bigger one. Yeah, I guess we'll just not solve the security code. But I'm sure we're so close to the solution here. It's 4 minus x equal y. Wait, 64, not 64. 96 minus 64 equal 32. Then we have 64 minus x equal y. And we have 32 plus z. No, plus x actually. Gives 96. Okay. Should come around with something with that. X is 64. Way around that. But it can be 0. 96 minus 64 is 32. Then we have 64 minus x gives y. And x plus 32 gives 96. Or it's rather y and not x. Yeah, well, yeah. That's 96 minus 64 equal 32, then 64 minus x equal y, then 32 plus y equal 96. So it doesn't make sense anyway. 32 plus 64 is 96, whatever the letter. 64 minus 0 gives 64. It doesn't work. So that's not the correct thing that I found there. Okay, let's skip that. Unable to crack the code, reluctantly you abandon the storage tank and content yourself with siphoning what you can from the fuel tanks of the dead clansmen motorcycles. Unfortunately, your efforts net you barely enough gasoline to reach Brogado, the next town on the freeway. As you pull away slowly from the service area, you are not the only one who is praying that you will find some fuel in Brogado. It is almost noon when you arrive into Brogado. The storm-shattered ruins of this mountain town do not inspire much hope of finding fuel, and after making a thorough search of its 2 gas stations, your initial fears are confirmed. One station has been looted and the other has been gutted by fire. It is beginning to look as though you will have to walk the last 30 miles to Kent when Marine Gunter sees the station wagon backed up to the entrance of a drugstore, and he calls it to your attention. All 5 of you are walking along the main street towards the vehicle when a shot rings out from the first floor window of the store, and Gunter is brought to the ground, clutching his blood-stained chest. "Sniper!" shouts Sergeant Haskell. "Hit the deck!" Pick a number from the random number table. Add it to your stealth and perception. That's 2 plus 4, 6 plus 7, 13, minus 3, 10, minus 2, 8. Or score is 10 or less. You dive to the ground and you look up to the front of the drugstore for some indication of where the shot was fired from. A second shot rings out and you pinpoint the sniper's location just a moment before a stinging sensation assails your eyes. The bullet has hit the road surface a few inches in front of your face, and a handful of grit has been kicked up into your eyes. Those 2 endurance points you to send in your eyes. Okay. Angered by this deliberate attempt to kill you and by the heart-rending moans of the wounded Marine Gunter, you decide to flush the sniper out and even the score. Kate and the others are pinned down on the other side of the street and cannot move without exposing themselves to the sniper's sights. Only you can reach the drugstore entrance with some degree of cover. When a 3rd shot hits the helpless Gunter, your anger gives way to a grim determination. Despite Kate's pleas to stay down, you spring to your feet and spring towards the drugstore entrance. A bullet passes close by your shoulder, yet you reach the drugstore entrance unscathed. The rear of the station wagon occupies most of the doorway, it having been parked there with its tailgate open. Inside, the luggage compartment is stacked with items looted from the store. The store's interior is very dark and it takes a few seconds for your eyes to adjust. When they do, you see a staircase at the back and you approach it cautiously. You have reached the 1st floor landing when there is another shot, and at once you sense the sniper's location, a room at the far end of the corridor. Silently, you creep to within inches of the open door and steel yourself for an attack. If you possess an HE grenade, we don't anymore. We done a padlock. Yet another shot rings out and another scream is heard in the street below. You have got to stop the sniper before he massacres your companions at his leisure, and purposefully you look to your weapons. You have a missile weapon and you wish to use it. You prime your weapon and spring into the room like a tiger. A man is crouched by an open window, and as you move towards him, he turns to meet your attack with a rifle clutched firmly in his hands. Instinctively, you raise your gun and fire a snapshot from the hip. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your shooting score. That's 3 plus 4, 7. Your total score is now 7 or more. Your gunfire hits the sniper in the chest and flings him against the wall. With a gurgling groan, he slides to the floor and rolls over into his crimson-stained stomach. His rifle is clutched in his hands. You wish to keep this weapon, you discover that it contains 8 rounds of 7.62. Well, I can finish the one I had. So, well, I won't change anything to the ammo pouch. Shout an all clear to the others in the street below and then turn to leave. When you reach the street, Kate and the others are standing in a circle around Gunter, staring at his inert body. You reach for your medikit, but Sergeant Haskell looks up and shakes his head, and you leave the pouch unbuttoned. Without speaking, the surgeon and Knott take Gunter's body away for burial, and you and Kate busy yourselves by searching the station wagon. The vehicle belonged to the sniper, and inside you discover the following items, which he looted from the store. Enough medicines and dressings for 6 medikit units, so let's go back to full. Enough tin food for 8 meals. Yeah, we have enough. Enough water for 3 drinks. We're full. You're able to siphon 2 gallons of fuel from the gas tank, enough to propel your roadster across the remaining 30 miles to Kent. As soon as the 2 Marines return from their set duty, you load up and take off along the freeway heading west. It feels good to be able to drive once more at a speed that is faster than the brisk walking pace to which you have limited yourself over the past 50 fuel-conscious miles. It is also a great relief not to have to walk the 30 miles to Kent, for they are mostly uphill, where the freeway traverses the northern slopes of the Davis Mountains. During this part of your journey, you must take a drink, or lose 3 endurance points. We're almost to Kent. You reach Kent late in the afternoon. At this hour, the dusty little town lies in the shadow of the Apache Mountains, and after spending hours in the relentless glare of the sun, you are thankful for the cooling shade. You have arrived a day ahead of your planned rendezvous with the convoy. The highway and surrounding area show no sign of their having arrived before you, so you decide to try to relax here, while you wait for the convoy to show. With the radio we intercepted a couple of days before, we quite note that the convoy is in deep shit. You rise at dawn and spend the morning servicing the engine of your roadster, while Sergeant Haskell and Marion Knott take it in turns to act as a lookout from the roof of a Baptist church, the Talus building still standing in Kent. It is 2 hours before noon when you hear a faint buzzing noise, high in the sky towards the northwest. You search the cloudless expanse, and your hopes soar as you see Rickenbacker's motorized glider circling about the town. He comes down and makes a low pass, waving his arms excitedly as he flies directly over the roadster. And he's gone, rising above the surrounding peaks and returning the way he came. An hour passes before Knott sights a cloud of dust on the eastern horizon. We are all gathered in the town, waiting expectantly for the convoy to arrive. But he cannot be sure that it is the convoy that is coming. At just such a distance, it could be a gang of marauding clansmen. "It's them!" cries Knott, as he sights the convoy vehicles trundling along the freeway towards Kent. Led by Pete Tyler's tow truck, the convoy pulls into the town with all horns blaring and everyone shouting their relief and delight that the rendezvous has been accomplished. It is a joyous reunion, made especially happy by the return of Kate to the colony. After the excitement has abated, you settle down to discuss more serious matters at hand. From his vintage place in the sky, Rickenbacker has been able to track the movements of Amex Gold and his maverick clansmen. A large contingent of them have been shadowing the convoy and are now in ambush somewhere in the mountains ahead. Also, Popuel has monitored by radio the movements of a large Mexican clan. They have crossed the border in search of fuel and food. And to make matters even worse, Mad Dog Michigan has linked up with the Saints, the clan from New Orleans, and now they too are somewhere in the vicinity. Yeah, they're taking football team names. It wasn't apparent yet. "Looks like we're surrounded by enemies." "Oh, it was Cotter." "Looks like we're surrounded by enemies," says Cotter, volunteering his opinion. "Seems to me we've got to keep moving if we're to stand a catch chance getting to El Paso in one piece." The opinions are shared by the majority, and so it is decided to leave Kent this afternoon and press on to El Paso without delay. It takes an hour to refuel the convoy vehicles and prepare for the next stage of your journey. You are to take over as scout now that the colony is about to push deeper into the mountains. The increasing altitude and the unpredictable thermal occurrence here make it too dangerous for Rickenbacker to continue in his role as air scout. 5 miles out from Kent, cross a dry water course, once known as the Salt Draw, and begin a slow climb into the Apache Mountains. To your left you can see a high ridge known locally as the Black Peak, and it is here that you sight something that makes you suspicious. A glint of sunlight is reflecting repeatedly at a point near the crest of this ridge. You possess a CB radio. You radio back to the convoy that you have sighted something suspicious in the hills to the south. You bring your roadster to a halt, and as the convoy draws closer, Cutter disembarks and comes running forward to find out more. Point out the place on the ridge where you saw the reflections, and he scans the area with his powerful binoculars. Whatever was up there has gone now, Carl, he says. It was clan scouts who saw it, and we'd better keep on moving before the rascal happen off their kin to bashwack us. You keep a watchful eye on the ridge as you lead the convoy along this section of the freeway. Anxiously, you expect an ambush to take place at any time. But despite your fears, an attack does not materialize. At length, the stores and houses of Van Horn appear on the road ahead. The town looks deserted, but you decide to take no chances. Bring the convoy to a halt within a mile of the town limits, and accompanied by Sergeant Haskell, you leave your roadster and enter on foot to check that the place is safe for the convoy to pass through. The tumble-down buildings are deadly quiet as you walk along the main street of Van Horn, and you notice nothing out of the ordinary until you reach a bar near the center of the town. A motorcycle is parked beside the entrance, its fuel tank emblazoned with the Ace of Spades emblem of the Mavericks clan. You decide to search the bar and, if possible, try to capture in question the bike's owner. Haskell suggests that it will be a good idea if one of you were to enter by the rear door. You nod your agreement. Wish to enter the bar from the rear, or to enter the bar through the front door. Let's give the front door to the ferryman, I guess. Although we're not really stealthy. But anyway. You enter an alley that runs alongside the bar and make your way to the rear door. Through a cracked glass panel you can see the kitchens. They are empty, but remnants of food lie scattered across the tables, and judging by the amount of fresh garbage strewn on the floor, a large group of clansmen must have eaten here not so long ago. You test the handle and discover that the door is unlocked. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your perception score. 4 plus 4 is 8. Your total score is 8 or less. You turn the handle and gently push open the door. You have taken but one step into the kitchen when a large glass storage jar falls from a shelf above your head and smashes down on your unprotected skull. Lose 3 endurance points. Wincing from the pain of your wound, you notice that the jar was attached by a thin cord to the inside handle of the door. It had been placed there deliberately. Not only have you lost some blood, but this primitive trap may have also lost you the element of surprise. With your nerves on edge, you advance through the kitchen and into the bar beyond. As you enter, you whisper Haskell's name in case. In the darkened interior, he mistakes you for a clansman. Pick a number from the random number table. Add it to your perception and spell scores. That's bad. So 0 plus 7 plus 4, that's 11, minus 3, that's 8, minus 2, that's 6. If it's the total is 13 or less. Suddenly there is a bang and a muzzle flash illuminates the far corner of the bar. You throw yourself at the floor immediately, but you are not swift enough to avoid being clipped in the thigh by a 9mm bullet. It's 4 endurance points. Seconds later, Haskell bursts into the bar and fires 3 shots into the corner. There is a loud groan, followed almost immediately by the sound of a heavy body falling off a chair. He rushes to your side, and using his own medikit staunches your wound with the sulfonamide pad and a bandage. Once he's sure you are not seriously injured, he goes to take a look at whom he has shot. Clutching your wounded leg, you hobble after a surgeon and find him in the corner of the bar, kneeling beside a clansman who is bleeding from a chest wound. You also notice that the man's leg is set in splints, as if recently broken, and that the leather jacket he wears is marked with the Maverick Ace of Spades symbol. Haskell lifts his head from the floor and asks him what he's doing here. Stubbornly, the dying clansman refuses to answer. Can use a medikit unit and treat the clansman wound, or let it die. Guess we can use one, just to see more cooperative. While you do your best to staunch the bleeding, Haskell continues to question the Maverick. Finally, on the brink of death, the clansman changes his mind and begins to speak. He says that he is a Maverick outrider, a scout, one of a large group sent here to ambush the Big Spring colony. While drunk, he fell off his bike and broke his leg. Unable to ride, his fellow scouts left him here with the promise that he will be collected when they return. His group are fighting a Mexican clan near Sierra Blanca. He says that the Mexicans are trying to steal their supplies. Haskell asks him about Mad Dog, Michigan, but he refuses to answer. A trickle of blood escapes from his lips and, with his dying breath, he says, "Mad Dog, make sure you never get through." And let's heal ourselves while being there. Just gaze again. You leave the bar and return to the convoy to tell the colony what has happened. After considering the likelihood of running into a Maverick ambush on the way to Sierra Blanca, probably in the narrow pass that separates Slaughter Mountain from Devil Ridge, the maps are consulted. A proposal is put forward by Sergeant Haskell that the convoy detours north across the Salt Lakes to Cornudas. And approach El Paso on Highway 62. It looks like the safest route to follow, and it is soon agreed. Convoy is turned around and you lead it north, but you have not traveled very far when you see something on the road ahead that forces another change of plan. You have reached a place where the highway passes through the Finlay Mountains, and from this high point you have commanding view over the valley and Salt Lakes beyond. Step to survey the scene, and to your horror you see a huge group of clansmen riding across the valley, heading towards Van Horn. You possess binoculars or a telescope. We do. With your pulse racing, you focus on the approaching bikers. They ride machines bedecked with a strange symbol, a priest or some other holy man, dressed in flowing white robes, with a halo above his heads. Looks a curiously pious symbol for a clan to add up, until you remember that before the day, the name of the professional football team based in New Orleans was the Saints. Suddenly you realize that this pack of riders, some 400-500 strong, are the New Orleans clan that Mad Dog, Michigan sent for. It will be disastrous for the convoy to run head-on into a group of this size, and you hurry back to the colony as quickly as you can to break the bad news. With the New Orleans clan approaching from the north, a large Mexican clan crossing the border to the south, and the threat of a Maverick ambush to the west, prospects of reaching El Paso unscathed now look decidedly unpromising. With no time to discuss the situation at length, the convoy reverts to the original plan, to stay on Interstate 10 and approach El Paso from the east. It is the shortest, most direct route, even though there is a very real chance of falling prey to a Maverick ambush. A cloud of fearful anticipation hangs over the convoy as it passes through Van Horn and begins the journey to Sierra Blanca. You feel especially vulnerable as the freeway approaches the narrow mountain pass between Devil Ridge and Slaughter Mountain. Even the names of these landmarks serve to increase your dread of what could happen here. You are a little over 5 miles from Van Horn when you hear gunfire in the distance and see a pall of black smoke rising into the cloudless sky. At its base, the buildings of a tiny town called Alamour are feeding the flames, and in the pass beyond his burning town, a gun battle is raging between the Mavericks and a group of invading Mexican clansmen. You assess the situation and decide that the best hope for the convoy lies in speed and surprise. If If you can drive straight through this battle zone while both sides are busy shooting at each other, the convoy will be long gone before either side can redirect all its firepower. With trepidation, the colony agrees to your plan and the convoy is drawn up into its breakout formation, with Pete Tyler's tow truck leading the way. Convoy is traveling at breakneck speed as it passes through the blazing ruins of Alamore and enters the pass beyond. Sweat trickles down your face as the ominous peak of Slaughter Mountain looms out of the smoke, and you witness the vicious battle taking place on its lower slopes. The bodies of slain Mavericks and Mexicans lie at the side of the freeway, tangled among the smoking remains of motorcycles and trucks once loaded with looted provisions. Small groups of desperate men are waging bitter end-to-end battles among this carnage, whilst others blaze away with automatic weapons, hiding in their foxholes dug by hand from the barren, stony soil. The arrival of the convoy brings a lull in the fighting. Some turn their guns on you, and a hail of bullets begins to rake either side of the colony vehicles. The tow truck approaches a bend in the freeway, and as it turns, you see a Maverick kneeling at the side of the road with a missile launcher perched on his shoulder. He tracks the truck, but a burst of Mexican fire makes him dive for cover. When he appears again, he no longer has the truck in his sights, he has you in his sights. The only way you can hope to avoid being hit by the missile is by taking evasive action immediately. Pick a number from the random number table and add it to your driving and perception skill. So that's 3 plus 4 plus 3, so 10. The total score is 10 or less. Yes, we die here with another dice roll. You pull on the steering wheel and swerve heavily to the left in order to avoid a missile, but you cannot prevent it from hitting your car. The armor tip penetrates the engine compartment, entering from below the wheel arch and exploding in the middle of the fuel injection system. In a split second, your roadster is transformed into a ball of flame. Death is instantaneous. Tragically, your journey in your life end here at the foot of Slaughter Mountain. Alright, so let's re-roll that. 11. The bit better, the midway option. Swerve to the right to avoid a speeding missile, and your swift reactions save you from receiving a direct hit. The armor-tipped projectile burrows into the ground close to your rear wheel, and the resultant explosion buffets your trunk and sends the roadster into a skid. Desperately, you fight to regain control as you slide off the freeway and career towards a deep gully. Pick a number from the random number table. Add it to your driving score. That's really bad. Yes, we die. Different way. The gully approaches with frightening speed. Horrified, you watch as the front of your roadster nosedives into the hollow, pitching the car hand over hand. There is darkness, and then there is a searing flash of white light that totally engulfs your vision as the fuel tank ruptures and explodes. Tragically, your journey in your life end here at the foot of Slaughter Mountain. Okay. Well, there's only another option, so let's take total 8 or more, which means that we rolled 5 or more on the die. With seconds to spare, you steer your roadster away from the brink of disaster. Your rear tire spins along the edge of the gully, kicking up great clouds of stones and dust before they grip and propel you back onto the freeway. In your mirror, you see the convoy coming under small arms fire, but its light is sporadic and it claims no victims. Soon you are all safely out of the battle zone and racing away from the Slaughter Mountain run towards Sierra Blanca. It comes as a relief to discover that the town of Sierra Blanca is deserted. Here the convoy halts to assess the damage and treat those who were wounded during the run. Cutter is among those who need treatment, having stopped a bullet in his left forearm. However, although you can tell he is in considerable pain, he does his best to hide it. Kate greets you with a kiss that leaves you in no doubt about how pleased she is to see you alive and in one piece. Together you go to the school bus for some food and water. Store 3 endurance points. And while you are there, you listen to Papu Will as he tries to make radio contact with the WDL unit in El Paso. After several attempts, he manages to raise them, but they refuse to acknowledge his call unless he gives a WDL security call sign, a sort of radio password that will prove he is not a Klansman trying to trick his way into the city stronghold. "Cole, will you go and fetch Sergeant Haskell? I think we'll be needing his help to solve this," says Pup, and eagerly you oblige. Sergeant Haskell is only too willing to speak to his command unit at El Paso. He gives his call sign, Palmito 40, and as soon as it is confirmed as valid, the El Paso garrison relays news of what is happening in their area. Parts of the city and the military reserve are under siege from Ava-clad Mexican Klansmen. They warn that Fabens, the Mexican base, and that they have barricaded the East Freeway approach to that town. Yeah, it's on our way to El Paso. In closing, they tell you to contact them again if you make it through Fabens. They do not sound very optimistic. News of the radio contact with El Paso is relayed to the rest of the convoy. It is decided that the barricade at Fabens should be scouted before any attempt at a breakthrough is made. As convoy scout, the mission automatically falls to you. But in view of the increased danger you are likely to face, Sergeant Haskell volunteers to accompany you. Before you leave, you are given the opportunity to replenish your ammo pouch with rounds donated by the other colonists. We're full already. You may take only Okay, let's next. With Sergeant Haskell beside you, you drive out of Sierra Blanca, heading west on Interstate 10. A few miles later, you see a forest of strange plants growing on either side of the freeway. They're 10 to 20 feet high, with stiff, spiky leaves and topped with wide bell-like flowers. "Those are yuccas," says Haskell, clearly amused by your open-mouthed reaction at seeing these almost science-fictional plants for the first time. "I'm amazed they've survived where everything else has failed," you reply. "They must be good at adapting to their new environment." "The key to survival, Call. We all have to adapt if we are to survive." You keep your car at a steady 60 miles per hour until the ruins of Fort Hancock loom into view. Like Sierra Blanca, this town is deserted, having been looted by the Mexicans a month ago. Sergeant Haskell radios back to the convoy to tell them that the town is safe to enter. When they arrive, you continue towards Fabens to scout the barricade. You're less than 3 miles from Fort Hancock when you see a vehicle approaching on the highway ahead. Rather than run the risk of a head-on confrontation, you pull your car off the freeway and hide it among the yuccas. As the vehicle grows nearer, you see that it is a military truck, loaded with munitions and manned by a group of Mexican Klansmen. Both you and Sergeant Haskell realize that if this truck is allowed to reach Fort Hancock, it could destroy the colony's hopes of ever seeing El Paso. You know that you must prevent the truck from reaching Fort Hancock, and the only sure way to do that is to ambush it. You leave the roadster and take up a position at the edge of the freeway. When the truck is 20 yards away, Sergeant Haskell opens fire at its tires with his machine pistol. The bullets explode the tires, causing the driver to lose control and run the truck into the freeway crash barrier. It hits a broken section of wire at speed, and is tipped onto its side, spinning its cargo and crew across the highway. Only 4 of the Mexicans survived the crash. The driver and 3 others were riding in the back. Possess a missile weapon. Time to open fire. You and Sergeant Haskell dispatch a clansman with a volley of well-aimed shots. You raise 2 rounds. For taking a closer look at what they were transporting, you discover several crates and lockers filled with munitions, mortars, and anti-tank weapons, heavy machine guns, and the like. However, you cannot find any ammunition for these weapons. You are about to set fire to the truck to prevent the weapons from falling into the hands of other clansmen, when you discover one item that could be of some use after all. In a sealed locker at the bottom of the heap, you discover a portable Leviathan ground-to-air missile, a weapon with approximately 8 times the destructive power of a bazooka. If you wish to keep this Leviathan missile, you must reduce your stealth score by 2 points due to its size and weight. Okay, well, we need to drop something for that. Drop the engine oil for the Leviathan missile. Sounds like the Summer Sword, kind of. Bad for stealth though. Everything is bad for stealth. Start your car and steer it back onto the freeway towards Fabens. 10 minutes later, you see the town in the distance, and once more you hide your roadster in the yucca forest before going forward to scout the Clanel town. A formidable barricade has been thrown across the freeway approach. It consists of auto wrecks filled with earth and broken chunks of concrete stacked 3 deep. It will be virtually impossible for the convoy to break through this barrier. On the perimeter of the town, the Mexicans have dug pits to entrap any vehicles attempts to bypass the barricade. It looks hopeless, but if you are to reach El Paso, you must find a way through this freeway defense. After observing the barricade at some length, Sergeant Haskell evolves a plan to blow a hole in it that is large enough to allow the convoy through in its entirety. You return to Fort Hancock and inform the colony of the plan, and a message is sent to El Paso requesting that they be ready and waiting to receive you once you break through. Possess a signal flare. You don't. Uncle Jonas sends you a signal flare to use once the breach has been blown. Tell the others to watch for your flare. When they see it, they're to start their engines, drive through the Fabens barricade in breakout formation, and not stop until they reach El Paso. So I need to remove something for the flare. Remove a meal, I guess. Be able to get more at the beginning of book 3, probably. Having briefed the convoy, you return to Sergeant Haskell on the freeway outside Fabens. The convoy is ready to roll straight through here as soon as they see my signal flare, you inform him. That's great. Now all we need to do is open up the gate and let them go. You possess a Leviathan missile. Sold quite quickly. This shall open the gate nice and wide, says Haskell as he takes the Leviathan from your hands and settles himself into position at the edge of the freeway. Stand clear, he shouts, and and then releases the trigger mechanism and sends the high explosive missile screaming towards the center of the barricade. We need to remove our new Leviathan missile and our new silent signal flare. There is a brilliant flash, followed by a thunderous explosion that rips a wide hole in the center of the barricade. Those clansmen who have survived the blast run in confusion as the hot remnants of their mighty wall rain down on their heads. Haskell fires the flare, and within a few minutes the convoy appears, thundering along the freeway with the tow truck in the lead. Climb back into your roadster and follow in their wake as they stream through the shattered barricade and on towards El Paso unchallenged. You receive a warm welcome from the WDL troops. We are defending the city and the military reserve. Then you celebrate the success of your mission and your bold defeat of the Mexican clansmen at the Fabens barricade. You have indeed earned the right to celebrate, or you have freed Kate from their abductors and reach El Paso, thereby achieving everything you set out to do when you left Big Spring 8 days ago. Celebrations continue in El Paso for several days, until the victorious mood is soured by the arrival of Mad Dog Michigan and an army of clansmen over 1,000 strong. He has persuaded the Mexicans to join his cause, and now they surround El Paso with a ring of steel. Mad Dog has promised to avenge the death of his brother. Now he reaffirms that vow and delivers the additional threat that neither you nor any of your colony will ever get out of El Paso alive. For you, called Phoenix, chance to defy Mad Dog's Michigan's threat and continue your life or death journey to California awaits you in Book 3 of the Freeway Warrior series, entitled The Omega Zone. The same time, next week, same channel.